Good morning, traders. Welcome back for another week right here, TTP Live, of course. And wouldn't you guys know it? Some Nvidia and AI stocks crashing. Well, we'll talk all about what happened there. And DeepSeek AI, of course, taking things over and really hitting some stocks and just overall, just smacking the Qs overnight. A lot of panic this morning as traders came in and realized, boy, oh boy, if they bought the dip on Friday, they just got smashed. So we'll see what happens out there, guys. Can stocks bounce back? I think this could really start to break those euphoric stocks, those stocks like, QUBT, Sound. We'll talk a little bit about those on the playbook. We'll take a look at the action out there right now. The stocks are moving already, guys. A little part of me itching to get short on some stocks. And I will let you guys know there's some really good news today, guys, that I will tell you guys. Just stick around. Hit the like button. I'll tell you guys once the show really gets started and we get Michael in here. It's good to see you guys in the chat. It's good to see all you guys out there. Smash the like. Let's get some more traders in here. And let's go ahead. Let's take a look at what's going on in today's playbook action. Let's go find some trades. Let's do it. All right, first up, let's go ahead. Let's move over and let's take a look here at what's going on in the playbook. First one up is going to be SoundHound to the downside as I look to see these euphoric names start to break down. Even this morning, I was looking at it as it was just hanging out here at like kind of the 1450 areas, 1460 areas. Now you can start to see it start to let go, even the VWAP. So now I'm even thinking about shorting it right here at the 1420s. We'll see what happens if I take it down right here at the 1420s, or do I wait for the 14 break at the open? That's what's going to be something to look at. I think by the end of the day, Sound can be way down there. It could be off the support down towards $13 and below. Of course, this one made it all the way up there to $24.60s, almost $25. And now we're starting to see a lot of these AI names start to break. And there's another one, of course, that we can take a look at, but there's going to be a ton of these names that we can watch, right? I think you watch all the AI names that you feel are maybe just not quality, right? Like maybe it's C3 AI, maybe it's Tempest AI, whichever one, really. I think what you got to watch is that there's going to be some quality plays that will be able to hang on and some other ones that will be taking a major beating. So we got to take a look to see what's happening there in Tempest AI and other players. All right, guys, let's keep it going. We'll see what else is going on this morning, and we'll see what we can come up with. Tempest pulling back. Let's get to the action. Let's talk about some other plays here and what we can maybe come up with. Let's take a look at maybe some staples, right? As we take a look at that action, we'll see what happens as the consumer staples already getting a lift this morning. Can they continue the party? Look at the 15 minutes, how it keeps holding that 9 EMA. Now could start to drive higher towards 79. This is looking pretty good here. And the overall market now starting to take a hit back down as it did do about 1, 2, 3, 4 waves up there towards pretty much 600, 596, 597, pretty close to that. Now we're pulling back to 550s on the SPY. We'll see what happens with that. Let's keep it moving, guys. Let's go over towards the last one there. Consumer staples, I'd be looking for maybe a pullback to the 78 to see that make a run to 79. And there's going to be different names here that you can look at, right? Like you can look at Procter & Gamble today, KHC, right? There's a couple of these that we could take a look at to see if we really start to get things going. Like Colgate-Palmolive, that's been on a big pullback, but look at the MACD crossover that just happened, and now could start to maybe make it a lift there towards the 90. So I think these are the stocks to watch today. Of course, I think a lot of traders will be watching some tech names to see if they bounce back. I think they could bounce back, but it's not going to be a massive bounce back. I think it's going to be kind of a little bit of chop during the open. We'll see what happens today. But definitely keeping an eye open for some defensive names as we look for some dividend players to maybe catch some cash. All right, we'll see what else is out there. And we'll talk all about DeepSeek AI, guys. I actually have been using it this morning. I'll pull it up and do a little question test, right? We can ask it some questions here and see how the reasoning model is. Because really, that's the surprise here with DeepSeek AI. The real surprise with it is not necessarily that it's a large language model, right? That it's Chinese. No, it's the reasoning factor, right? Because if you want to use reasoning on ChatGPT, what are you going to have to do? you're going to have to pay up, of course. And in this case, completely different situation. Now with a free kind of model for you, what will a lot of people do? They'll probably just move over to the free model. There really isn't that much, I think, advantage in using Chat GPT over, let's say, like a Claude from Anthropic, or in this case, now I might have to add one to the stream deck. I have right here Chat GPT and Claude. Looks like DeepSeek might need to be next to it. And I don't like Bard or anything like that. I've used that and maybe a little bit of Gemini. Gemini is all right. I think they're improving it, but not nowhere near as good as the others. Nvidia down bad. Yes, let's talk a little bit more about that. Good morning to you guys out there. It's definitely good to see you guys. And Steph, we got to talk about some smaller ones, right? Hollow won the watch there this morning. And I will let you guys know, I got a surprise, guys. And man, I'm feeling good about it today. Now the only question is, can we get that cash? We'll talk a little bit about that coming up once we get Michael on. I'll tell you guys a little bit more about that. Let's see what happens here. Sound just hanging out there. The market just hanging around. We can take a look at the Qs. The Qs took a whopping overnight, guys. They were up there to 530s on the close. And this morning, we're all the way down to 502. So if you think about that, that's a big drop. That's a 5% drop overnight, and definitely what you call an overreaction. Now it's more about where would the shorts come back in, or will they come back in? It doesn't need to happen. It could drive back higher, and maybe even tomorrow or the following day actually be the takedown. I think we got to continue to watch to see what happens here and see what happens with different names. QUBT, of course, was on my radar for the short side of things, and this is already dropping, guys. This is dropping from around 1025s and 1050s this morning, now already to 10. I actually shorted QUBT on Friday, made a lot of cash, guys, a lot of cash on this name on the short side of things as things came right back down, and making a lot of cash on Friday. I can't be mad about that, guys. It's good to see you out there, Jimmy. Let's make some cash, man. Let's make it. Good morning to everyone out there, and we'll take a look at Nvidia and different tech names that are really getting the whopping. But definitely, we'll look what else is happening out there. And the list, Baez waiting for some kind of bounce at the open, maybe the 50 EMAs or 50 MAs. Definitely something to look at. Par. We'll see what happens if we can finally get some stock bounce here, and definitely QUBT already going lower, 995. Take a look at IonQ. I'll be watching for names like that, QMCO, for those names to start to break. And names that are like just euphoria names, right? Like even this RCAT was doing really well on Friday and now can reject and start to work its way back down. We'll see what happens to these names like RCAT and different names out there. Let's say even the space names, right? We saw recently, what was it? ASTS kind of raised money, right? And it's hanging out there on the 1987s. Let's see if this really starts to take a hit now and we start to affect other names out there like Rocket Labs starting to come back down. And PL this morning, I saw it just trying to hold on there. Planet Labs. Can this one hold on today? We'll find out, guys. I think these are definitely targets on both sides, long and short, because they're getting a good move into the action. And then, of course, you got to see, will it turn around? Serve is another one. Serve Robotics, a robotics stock that has been doing really, really well. Now could start to break maybe the 90 EMA, maybe making a run towards the 50 EMA, which is going to be at 1471. So maybe a move back down into the 15s. Makes more sense for Serve Robotics right here. It had a nice little setup there to go through it on Friday, and it's right back down to $18. All right, guys, we'll see what happens if we start to get a little bounce in the market. But, hey, taking a look to see what else is happening out there. And if you guys have a stock to take a look at this morning, let me know. We can definitely take a look out there. Mitch, can you take a look at MU? Let's go. Let's take a look at it, Alexander. And let's take a look at different names. Oh, interesting day for stocks. Hey, Mitch, you know it, Alex. We're getting after it, trying to make that money. Let's go. It's definitely an interesting day with the DeepSeek AI, of course, affecting things. And like I always think about it, it changes up the landscape and the environment out there. Even the kind of the nuclear stocks taking a big hit there. OKLO. Let's go to that MU that wanted to be take a look into. Let's go ahead. Let's take a look at that, Alexander. Micron Technology pulling back here. We'll see what happens with the weeklies if this can really start to kind of hold on. You can see how you've gone up multiple times. I'm actually going to delete all this because at this point, it's just kind of watching to see if we can get above these wicks. You see how there's so many wicks up there? That is very, very kind of hard to get through on the price action if you keep just failing up there. It just looks like to me like the resistance is resistance there, and it's going to hold right now, at least for the time being. Now the question is, do you go and you take out the support? Because on this day, right now, it could be an action where you come back into the trend line down here, right? Of course, that would be the breakdown look where this consolidation would break down. I think right now you got to wait to see MU get out of the consolidation, right? Show me that you want above 115, or show me that you want below this kind of 86, and then it could get back towards 65s, or above 115, you could start approaching back towards the 134. So it doesn't look too bad for opportunities. Right now, I would say it's in the middle, and it did just recently try to cross on the MACD and the weekly, tried to make the up move above the 100, now slightly below it. So it needs to recover 100 at the very least for me to look at this on the upside. If anything, downside looks good right now for an attempted move back into that trend line, which is around the 86 or the 90. All right, we'll see what happens there in Micron. We can take a look at some different stocks out there. We got a lot to take a look at this morning. Let's make some money. Let's take a look around and see what else is going on. Let's go into today's Sunrise report, where we take a look at what's going on in the market, why stocks are moving. It's so vital, guys, to definitely take a look every single morning. If you're not catching, of course, the Sunrise report, then you're not catching our Discord. So, hey, get in that Discord. It's in the link right down below on our YouTube description. Check it out, team. Hit the like, and let's get over to the Sunrise report. All right, this morning, of course, all the focus going towards the DeepSeek AI conversation. And this is something to think about, right? Because the truth is, what's the difference here? The difference is how much it costs to make DeepSeek AI versus all the money that's being spent in OpenAI and, of course, in different large language models. Meta, another one mentioned, right? Billions and billions of dollars, when this didn't take billions of dollars, but millions, costing under 6 million. That's it. And developed in just 2 months at a cost of under 6 million. So all these talks about these will take years and years, it looks like they're starting to adjust. Now the only question is, what is underneath the hood at DeepSeek AI, right? Where did it get the data? Things like that. But this is an open source, right? So open source is going to give it the ability to really expand and get that next push. JP Morgan Sandeep weighed in on this, saying that Microsoft planning to spend $80 billion in 2025, and Meta announcing investments of $6 billion to $65 billion. DeepSeek's innovation suggests that AI investment cycle could be overhyped, sparking thoughts of more efficient futures. And I think that we got to continue to watch the fallout. We'll take a look at different stocks here that are moving on it, but definitely getting the shakeup this morning. Nvidia, of course, down big. Let's take a look at that. It was down about 12% in the pre-market and not looking good at all. Look at the chart. It got back there towards that level. Would we go back up to that level up there? Let's say back towards 153s, 152. We got back there towards 148, looking like we're going to break new highs, and now quickly down to support. This is where I think the bulls start to get stuffed. And that's the question on Nvidia. Will they continue down there? It's having its worst day since March 2020 as DeepSeek AI, of course, success raises doubts about the need for Nvidia's fastest chips, right? You don't need a fast chip if it's going to be able to do certain things like it is right now. Broadcom and AMD fell 12% and 4% respectively. So these big names, big tech names dropping big. Broadcom, let's take a look at that as it continues to drop there. AVGO, of course, as that's taking a nice hit down there towards the support. This one looks a little bit better, right? Because it's had such good action there. It's doing an undercut. I'd actually look to see it undercut again, see if it could wash out some more of the bulls, get actually below the gap, closing, let's say, somewhere between 210 and 27 207, 210, somewhere down there, getting some of that gap to start to close, and then tomorrow getting out of this. Right now, I wouldn't be playing these. These just look like trying to catch a falling knife. Then we talk Microsoft and Amazon and Meta. They dropped 6%, 4%, and 3% as concerns about AI spending are rippling through all of tech, right? Not just one name, right? Amazon also taking a hit back towards 220s, right? Meta just was looking awesome. It just did a nice little trend line break, was looking like it was going to take a next leap. And today, right back through the throwback look. So now I'd be looking to see if we could have a hot day. Meta's on the radar for the upside. If we don't have a hot day, I'll be looking to see how much Meta takes a hit. All right, let's keep it going. We can take a look at some different ones, but even the power providers out there dropping big, right? Well, the OKLO, right? Constellation Energy, CEG, right? All these taking big hits on the nuclear space, right? NNE, big hit. Why? Because these small reactors and all this is to be used for what? It's to be used for the infrastructure for AI. And that's the vital news here, right? And so anything that you thought of the infrastructure for AI that was getting the lift because of the spending behind it, what we call tailwinds, is now facing some headwinds potentially, right? Of, hey, but you're spending too much and this isn't very efficient. This is how quickly the market can change. Now, the only question is this a knee-jerk reaction, or is this a reaction that's going to stay? I think today it's a knee-jerk reaction. We could easily have some bounce backs today, but during the later part of the day, let's say the opening action, I could see the bounce. The later part of the day and the end of the day are going to be very vital, because if we start to take major hits there, that could be a sign of disaster. Now, let's not forget, let's not get overthrown on what's going on this week, right? This week is very important. There are some bright spots that are coming out right now. There's some earnings plays that we can talk about. We're going to take a look at this new site that I found that I think I definitely want to give you guys. It's a nice free site right now to look at earnings stocks. Of course, you can look at Benzinga Pro and different things out there, but I always love a good earnings calendar. So we'll talk a little bit about that. AT&T gaining 2.3%. Let's see if it's able to hold on to its strength this morning. AT&T, of course, T, ticker T. You guys can see it up there to 23.56. Why would this name do well in this type of environment, in this type of situation? Well, it's a dividend player, right? And a lot of people go for AT&T for that dividend. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on right now. AT&T is gaining after it beat Q4 earnings estimates at 54 cents per share versus a 50 cent expected, and 32.3 billion in revenue. And let's talk a little bit about DR Horton, and that's going to be the last news, and then we'll get right into the show, guys. We got a lot to talk about today. DR Horton, though, getting a little bit of some slippage action as Bank of America downgraded the home builder to neutral and citing rising input costs and tough housing market. The tough housing market, I can clearly see. The rising input costs were already known. That was a known thing, right? We've all seen the rising input costs. I think what you're starting to see is the oversupply is starting to affect these companies because they did a lot of construction, and now they need to go and attack that housing market. And if it's going to be a tough market, it's not going to be something good for them. All right, the key question, of course, is this beginning of a reality check for the AI hype train, or will innovation and efficiency drive the next phase of growth? Things you need to be asking yourself. Let's go ahead and kick off the show for real. Let's bring on Michael. We got a lot to talk about here with DeepSeek AI. We'll take a look at the heat map. We'll take a look at what's going on. And Mitch's big surprise for you guys coming right up. Let's start the show. Hit that countdown. Hit the likes. You guys know it. A brand new week. Let's go get that money. Hugo wants 200, baby. You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money.
It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at. All right, traders, let's get this trading started. Let's go ahead. Let's bring on the man himself, Michael Noss, in the chat. What's going on? Everyone's let's make some money out there. A lot going on today, man.
Yeah, everyone seems really worked up. As as someone who doesn't, I know a lot of people out there, they're like checking the futures on the weekend and all that. As someone who avoids it entirely, I woke up this morning, I looked at my phone, I left you guys for not even a day with the market open, and what's going on?
That's what
And
happens, my friend. That's what happens.
well, it's like they know I'm going away. I'm going to New York tomorrow for a couple of days, and the market knows we're going to make it really exciting while you're gone.
Hey, dude, they're really exciting while you're there, right? I
Oh, there you
mean,
go.
you got to view it half full or half empty, right? I mean, I view that as half full, man. I'll tell you one thing. All eyes will be opening up on New York Stock Exchange. You will be telling us boots on the ground. What's the sentiment like? Do
Yeah.
you see stress in the faces of the market makers? Things like this are things that are important. Only
Yeah,
things you can see on the floor.
well, and it's funny, yeah, I'm going down to the floor tomorrow. So maybe I'll record something while I'm there and give it to you
Ooh.
guys to play about. Maybe I'll grab a market maker and see if I can find Jay Woods or something and say,
Yeah, grab
"Hey,
a
you
couple
worried?
of guys.
Are
Man,
you scared?"
yeah, there's this one guy I know that's really cool. He won't come on camera for me, but
Oh, no.
he's one of those guys where you could sit there and talk for a good hour and a half in the floor. But it's always good to see market movement, right? Because at the end of
Mhm.
the day, as day traders, that's what we're looking for. We just
Yeah.
need the market to move. Now it's opportunity day, right? Whether you're short, whether you're
Mhm.
long, opportunities are presenting themselves. Let's get after those opportunities and see what we can come up with. So I'll kick it to you, Michael, to kick things off. Take a look into the market. Tell us what you're seeing out there. And then we'll take a look at some of those names that are mentioned in the chat. I did see that Hollow Steph
Mhm.
great chart there. I'll just really quickly just throw that up there really quickly. Nice short there. It looks like you were jumping on that. I like it too. 1, 2, 3, 4 times trying to break through 3, starting to fail. We'll look to see if it's able to hold the VWAP and come back. But hey, way to get after it, Steph, in the morning. It looks like you already made your money. Hey, I'll tell you one thing. We ain't going to be mad about that. Good morning to everyone. Kicking it to you, Michael. What's going on in the market?
Yeah, so regardless of what the reason was, we kind of talked about this on Friday too, that we had this bear trap at support, and then we just rocketed our way all the way to resistance. Every metric that you could possibly imagine technically was oversold. You're up higher lows for 6 7 days in a row, again at this area. So it's almost like the market was just looking for an excuse to, okay, I can take some profits. We shook some people out. My comment about how worked up people are, I think, is a big one, just because everybody seems to be losing their mind talking about it's the end of days, but really we're just at a price that we were last week. So a little bit of pullback. We're sitting right in the middle of the range. This continues to be one of those markets where it makes sense to buy the dip, sell the rip, not chase breakouts, not do so much trend continuation plays, but you're buying that dip, you're selling that rip, you're doing that over and over again. So for those who did that, who were able to buy on this bear trap and then sell as we reach resistance, that was fantastic. We are gapping down a little bit. And, my favorite risk barometer, Bitcoin, is also right just in the middle of the range. So this is one of those days that if you look at the headline number, NASDAQ down 4% or 5% or whatever it is now, it gets pretty scary. But if you just go and start looking at the markets, we are just right back where we were, right? If we go to the Qs, we hit new all-time high, and now we're right back kind of in the middle of the range. So to me, it's just like I was saying before, if we are above this 580, I want to be buying stocks. I want to be buying names and pullbacks. And if we break that, then I have to reevaluate. That worked out amazingly in through here. Definitely going to be red on the swing in the investment portfolio, I'm sure, today, unless something crazy happens. But if you're not buying, you're not making that money in through there. Now, when we go to the board, it can see pretty easily the theme, and the theme is going to be China. So I'm going to be watching a lot of that and a lot of that name, right? ACWX is All Country World Index XUS. So this ETF essentially represents the rest of the world. You take the US out, what is the rest of the world doing? And the rest of the world's doing fantastic, up 1.35%. That's going to be mostly led by China here as well. FXI up 1.8%, KWeb up 1%. So a lot of these names are doing absolutely fantastic. The rest of the things that are up are kind of defensive. TLT being up as kind of a defensive name. A lot of these, Boat, Berkshire Hathaway, KRE, a lot of these are still kind of defensive type names. But yeah, we are in the middle of a range. It's very interesting just looking at the pre-market action, the massive dip we've had, and then just started to rally from that dip. So when it comes to long-term swing trading, still watching 580. If we're above that, I want to be buying stocks on pullbacks. And in the intraday action, I think marking that pre-market low is going to be the kind of the most important thing. So let's just mark that right now. If we're above this pre-market low, there's a chance that we're going to hold on and dig in, move higher. If we fail that pre-market low, then that's where I kind of think, okay, we got to start reevaluating things if we spend too much time below that price. Quick sip here.
Today is one of those days where definitely I feel like it will distinguish between quality and euphoria, right? And that's one of those days where I'll be looking to see what stays up today, right? Because there are going to be some names that bleed, and I expect that, right? At the end of the day, with this situation that's going on, I expect some type of bleeding, right? Now the question is, what names don't get hit today? I think those are the names that I'll be looking at a little bit more. Like I know that, like let's say like AVGO is taking a little bit of a beating, but it's not that bad, right? It's right into the earnings. It's going to probably flush out some of the bulls right now. And it's going to be a name that really I'll be watching for the next couple of days to see if it can rebound, right? Can it just shake some of this downward catalyst and get right back up? Because essentially this is not affecting specifically AVGO and Broadcom, but overall chips. Why? Because everyone was buying up chips like crazy because they needed the infrastructure to run these AI models. Now, when one model is being made under 6 million, it calls all that under question. Just question, right? And I think that that's what you're pointing to also on that knee-jerk reaction. And that's why I jumped in on our tweet this morning, or your tweet this morning with the Bears, right? Because the Bears love to show up when any downside action happens, right? I think the Bears are a little bit, they're a little bit too easy to come out of the caves, right? The Bulls take a little while, right? We'll have like 4, 5, 6 days up, and then they're just like, oh yeah, I'm running in the street now. That's how I felt like it was on Friday. And I feel like that's why it flipped on Friday. But now you come in with like everything just hit hard, right? So there are some bulls that probably got scared this morning, probably hitting some out buttons as they get into their desk, right? They're getting to their desk and they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. These are way more down than I expected today. I bought the dip on Friday. Now I'm getting hit here. This is when I always talk about how the market likes to hurt the most. In this situation, you bought the dip, it's going to wash you out. And then if you're short here, that's another question. Do we just jump in and get short right now? I also think that could be a problem here because you could get washed at the open as those bulls start to hit the out button also. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see out here what happens today and what will distinguish itself. Is it really an AI concern?
Yeah, and remember, right? I brought you guys this chart from my buddy Todd Sowen, a while ago. This is year one of a year one of a bull market, and this is kind of what we did, the choppier line. This is generally year two of a bull market. We dramatically outperformed that last year. And then year three of a bull market is generally sideways. And so far, we've been following this pretty much verbatim. So that's why I keep saying buy the dip, sell the rip market. And it's one of those moments where people who are able to adapt or trade multiple strategies, I think are going to do very, very well, because it's one of those where, okay, it's we are in a situation in which the buying breakouts may not be working anymore, and buying the names that used to work over the last 2 years may not be working anymore, right? Your Nvidias may not be working, because if this whole AI thing is going to not unwind, but take a pullback or take a pause, or we got a little overextended in AI and chips, that doesn't mean that the whole market falls apart. Right? Maybe what ends up happening is that we go back into a situation where things start to catch up, right? So if I'm selling all of my AI stocks as a large institution right now because I made a whole bunch of money doing so, and I'm worried that this is the end of the trade, the question is, what am I doing with that money? And if I'm just buying bonds or defensive assets or something like that, that's not going to be good, because that will cause the market to sell a little bit. If, however, I go and I start buying small caps, I start buying biotechs, I start trying to make the bet on, okay, maybe AI is done for now, but what's next? Then that causes a surge of other things. So in that case, the market may go down because the market is heavily large cap weighted, but you might start seeing small caps bubbling up. You may see other sectors doing well, which, again, for people who just buy and hold indexes, sorry, but for us that end up we're actively trading. You're watching the show. You're watching us analyzing different sectors all the time. It could be great because it means that we can catch sectors as they're starting to break out of ranges, as the institutions are starting to get involved in them, and ride some nice waves. So again, I'm very excited for if this is the AI trade. Now, the whole thing about it only cost them a couple bucks to make DeepSeek. Now, full disclosure, I've been talking about this for a while. I am heavy into China already, so I've been buying China. So I'm very happy on this gap up. I don't really believe that it only cost them $6 million to make that. It's one of those, like, I don't. And that's, I think, another news event that we got to watch out for. If it comes out that they stole code or something like that, and they were able to make it so cheap because it's just,
Yeah, that's
you know,
I mean, but
keyboard
it's open
IPs, then
source though, right? I think that's also another thing there is the thinking that if it did cost them 6 million, why would they want to make it open source, right? I mean, that's what I would think, at least. If it cost me 6 million to make this, right? I'm not telling anybody that it cost me 6 million to make this. I'm like,
no.
I'm
And
talking stories. I'm telling narratives of how long this took me.
yeah.
That this was my whole life's initiative to was create DeepSeek AI. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
the sell button would be real quick. I mean, you could easily sell that model for, let's just be honest, like probably 100x that, right?
Mhm.
And so that's where the real confusion's coming in. But what I think is important, right, is just the uncertainty at play, right? Just keeping it simple. Now
Yeah.
uncertainty's back into the market, right? There's times where euphoria runs the market. There's times where the market is almost like searching for bad news,
Mhm.
right? Like it's like just waiting, like, and I think that for a little while they're rewriting the euphoria, right? Trump got in. Then we went into like kind of December time. It wasn't as great as the Santa Claus rally as everybody wanted. Then
Mhm.
we started to get another push. Everyone, Trump inauguration comes in, Trump rally, right? And then buy the rumors, sell the news. Now we're getting out of that situation. We're
Yep.
starting to hear more about the tariffs. We're starting to understand more what the plan is. And now we're starting to pull back a little bit. So,
Mhm.
in my eyes, I think this just puts pure AI focus probably starts to die down a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And just starts to, it doesn't mean that these stocks are going down because, like I said, today's that quality to euphoria names. I want to find out which names are the quality names, which names are those euphoria names, and which names don't have fundamentals underneath them,
Mhm.
right? Because that's what I always talk about. Fundamentals are great, but they're only in focused when uncertainty comes into play,
Yeah.
right? When you actually care about the valuation of a company. There's sometimes, I'll be honest, you don't care about it. You're like, well, this thing could trade 60 times PE, tomorrow could trade 120 times PE, and still would be on investors' mindset. But when uncertainty comes into the market, that's quickly when we look at the PE ratios. That's quickly when we look underneath the hood and we're like, this company's crap. There's no reason for it to be up, right?
Well, and that's the Warren Buffettism of, you don't know who is swimming naked till the tide goes out. And it's the same. I've seen it a million times in different sectors and different stories. Everything continues to go up. Everyone's super happy, and then some hiccup hits, and then what ends up happening is, yeah, you have everybody who is, losing money. They're kicked out and then consolidated, bought up by the guys who are going to be around, the guys who are doing okay. So for me, it's one of those that if you were really interested in playing the AI trade, you kind of have to go back and start focusing on a lot of the things that were working initially, and the bigger names, right? Your Nvidia is not going to go bankrupt, right? Could SOUN or one of these other little guys, or just the C3 AI, could these guys get hit? Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
No one, they're not big profitable names. Nvidia might be done with the run, right? Maybe it comes back down even to $100 and falls 25% or something crazy. But it's not going anywhere, right? They have orders, they sell things, they make money. It's just the question that everyone's asking is, have we overspent, right? Are they overspending? And then really what's going to happen is you're going to hear from a lot of the big tech companies like Meta and Google and everything, and say, hey, we're going to chill out, or we're going full steam ahead, and all of that will take place as well. But again, the rotation, I think, is going to be everything. The hedge fund manager who sells his Nvidia that he's up 1,000% on and has been looking for an excuse to do it, what does he do with that money, and where does he go with that money? And for people out there, there's going to be a whole bunch of people out there that are going to think this market's horrible because the SPY might go down, because their holdings of their big cap tech that they've been buying for years, they may go down. But again, for us who are nimble and we're not, I'm not just going to own quantum computing forever stubbornly. Those type of people who are able to kind of bob and weave, I think we're going to do great. I think this is going to be awesome if the change is coming, in which it's coming. That's why I've been kind of clowning a little bit on Twitter, because I know the bears are getting very, very loud. But what's interesting is just looking at the pre-market action so far. So again, this candle includes the pre-market, is the kind of the dip and the rip that we've did in the SPY, but yet Nvidia's still kind of down at its lows. The Qs is underperforming. So all of this is just putting together this story of this may be a tech sell-off where everything else starts to recover. So that's what I'm really excited for today, is to really focus on kind of what's going on. Just quickly, there was 2 setups that I don't know will happen that came through the algos on the weekend as I run. And one is RNAS, which this thing has just spiked from $2 to 13, put in these 2 topping tails. So we're looking for a pop, or the algo is looking for a pop back to $10. It's at 627. So I really don't think this will trigger, but that one. And the other one is this OKLO, which is one of these small nuclear reactor names. It was looking for another pop on these, and it's gapping down. So I really don't think there'll be any trades from the algo today, but if they are, I'll let you guys know. For me, when it comes to day trading, I'm enjoying more and more just focusing on the overall market. So this might be something that I do a little bit more. I've talked about it a few times, where if I am going to discretionary day trade, maybe I just make a list of some ETFs, and that's my focus. Because I think today, and I have some evidence for this that I can grab, that when the market's crashing, the correlation of pretty much everything goes higher. So if you're planning on trading Nvidia, if you're planning on trading any of these big names, then it's going to be very important that you kind of keep this chart here in mind, in which, hold on, let me do that better. And I'll explain this chart here. And this is just the bottom is the S&P 500. And then the top chart here is the average correlation to the S&P 500. So the higher this line is, it means more and more stocks are moving exactly with the S&P 500. You can see every time we have a little bit of these dips or a little bit of these sell-off, you have massive spikes in this chart, just saying that when you have market volatility, market sell-off, it's one of those things in which the S&P 500, everything moves with the SPY. So, and I think it's going to be one of those kind of days. So if you're one of those people that, if you're trading small cap, these crazy low floaters, what's that, black box or one of these crazy names, I think you'll be fine. If you're trading anything that's an S&P 500 name today, I think you have to be laser focused on the SPY, because I think that's what's going to determine whether or not your stock moves or not, just based off kind of historical data. When we're in these situations where emotions are high, everything kind of gets correlated, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I'm wanted to bring in a tool for you guys. And I'm always looking in the market to find some cool tools, right? Like some new things that are coming out. So I found a new one that I wanted to bring in today, and just to kind of give a little bit of a perspective for this week of how important this week is, right? I know that we're like concerned about this like situation right now, but let's actually look underneath the hood and look out through the week, right? Because this week is going to be massive. So here's a new one that I found, and just like always, always doing a little search for some different tools out here. This one's called Earnings Hub, right?
I
And
know I know I've met the CEO of this company.
well,
It's a
there you
newer one.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's good.
newer, right, Michael?
Yep.
I'm not lost in the sauce there. It is
Nope.
newer,
Yep.
and I like it. I gotta say, because I seen so many of these, right? Like so many different services and things like that. I check them out, and a lot of times what I'm looking for is usability. How can I get through it? Without like going through like 30 different pages and things like that. And this is pretty good, right? Like let's say it's not going to probably have every single earnings stock that comes out, but what I would say is just keep it to what the ones you're probably looking at, right? Like right now, SoFi's report has come out, AT&T's report has come out, right, for today. And I just love how they do it, right? Like I click on SoFi, I can look right here, I can see the earnings estimates here, I can listen to the call right here, I
Hmm.
can see the earnings estimates, I can go back and see previous earnings. And there's plenty of services that have this, right? But the truth is, it's how easy is it for me to kind of look into it, right? Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I like here. And I gotta say, they're doing something right, right? And of
Hmm.
course, you guys can take a look at it to see if you guys are interested in this, right? This looks like this just came out in 2025. I can just tell from the bottom right there. But yeah, something definitely to take a look at. And I think this is just interesting to see overall, right? And I think I'll keep watching this. It looks like it even has some like social pullings that it's pulling from also. So hey, guys, check it out, guys. It's a cool way to take a look at some earnings calendars. Of course, I've used plenty of different services for this. There's Earning Whisper, there's Benzinga Pro, right?
Hmm.
But I just like I like finding new ones here, and I think this one it did it right. So hey, check it out, guys, and you can make a free account, right? I'm not affiliated to this or anything at all. I just thought it was pretty cool to come up with. But what I really wanted to point to was like the bigger earnings coming in the week, right? Like this could be all shit, all to the sideline by the
Yep.
time the end of the week comes, right? The scare before the big boys report, right? Well, this is a classic move, right? Because now retail is all worried AI, AI, AI.
Hmm.
Well, the truth is, Tesla comes in, Microsoft comes in, Meta comes in, Apple comes in, and all those kick it out the door. Well, guess what? Well, you could kiss that AI news to the side because no
Hmm.
one's going to be talking about it by that time, right? So I think keep an eye on it, guys. It makes sense for me to have some scare before these big boys report so that retail is not buying these up and institutions have the access to maybe go dipping their toes before kind of these earnings stocks come in.
Well,
So
and look at Wednesday right there, right?
yeah, dude.
Tesla, Microsoft, Meta, like these are all the AI plays are
Yeah.
reporting. So yeah, I would say that is when probably some clarity on this whole AI thing is going to hit because you're going to have three of them. If if Meta comes out and says all full steam ahead on AI, if Microsoft comes out and says we're ready to go with AI, if Tesla comes out and says full steam, then I think everyone forgets about DeepSeek really quickly and
Really quickly.
they just kind of they keep going from there. Again, it's one of those things that I bet you there's a lot of emergency meetings going on right now in these companies where they're
Yeah.
saying, I want you to take this DeepSeek and I want you to tear it apart and I want you to prove that they didn't do it for 6 million. Go. So I think you're going to see a lot of articles and statements and all of this because if one of these companies can prove that, hey, they weren't right about this, it cost them way more, or this is what how they did it for that price or whatever. Yeah, all of this can change on its head. But again, the way
Yeah.
I look at this is that it's where is the rotation going? And again, you're seeing a lot of names on that earnings report uh, for this week that could kind of give us some clues on what people are going to start buying.
So I actually have already done a couple of searches on DeepSeek. I don't know if you checked it out, Michael, this
Oh yeah.
morning and clicked onto it. I mean, anybody that's a real AI fan, I'm sure you've already checked it out. But yeah, I thought what was really interesting was getting access to the reasoning problems, right? I mean, that's just really where it's at, man. And that's where it's completely different, right? Like people don't understand the difference between the reasoning and kind of the simple AI that's used on a daily basis. It's things like this, right? So I made it think here. It thought for 12 seconds on what was better, ChatGPT or DeepSeek. I asked DeepSeek which one was better, right? And so, what is the difference, right? Why is it reasoning, right? Well, you can see it here, guys. It pretty much talks to itself and tries to convince itself of an answer, right? And so it'll give you the conflicting arguments for both sides and kind of work through the problem, right? So essentially, it came through here that ChatGPT was more a generalized model, and DeepSeek is more for specialized kind of outlooks. And so, hey, who knows if that is right or wrong? But that's it. That's interesting just to see it, right? It said that, like, Chat GPT is primarily in English, while DeepSeek may support other languages better, things like that, right? But really, what it came down to, it says that DeepSeek, if it's specialized, might excel in certain niches, right? Like financial analysis, medical research. And this is where I think it's always funny. It might perform better in those areas than general models like Chat GPT. So essentially, that's what it's trying to tell you, that it's generalized, and DeepSeek is specialized. So, hey, believe it or not, right? I think it was just interesting to do a little search, but that's the situation where if you'd want to do this deep think feature on ChatGPT, I'm pretty sure that's the O1 model on ChatGPT, and then you would be spending lots of moolah to be doing that, right? And that's the key also, is that I use paid ChatGPT, and
I do, yeah.
hey, to tell you the truth, man, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it. I just do it just because I can, right? And I have the ability to use the tool and can pay for it, but I don't think it's worth it in the sense that you get so much more for paying for it, right? And the tokenization aspects of it, we can go into that long conversation. It's the reason why I stopped building like AI apps. I was starting to build AI apps, and I was starting to think of that, and then I started seeing the cost, and I was like, this makes no sense, man.
Yeah.
This makes no sense. The cost itself is like a losing venture. It's like starting an EV. It's like starting an EV company right now. Yeah, you're going to be a losing venture for a long time. Then maybe somewhere down the line, you can find profitability. But down that path is nothing that I'm looking at, right? So let's go take a look at different names. The market's getting close to the open. One last thing I wanted to bring in here today, guys, and we might be able to celebrate this today. This was the surprise of the day, guys. Wanted to bring this in as just to bring you guys up to date with the small limited account. Of course, this is one of our small ones, right? You can get this one, guys. It's the limited to 20,000. I am pretty much $147 away, maybe $46 away from getting the account. So let's see what happens today, guys. And best stock, I actually traded on Friday. It was EVAX. I made $4.59 on that one, and it was a real interesting trade. I actually made trade on the upside and the downside on that one. And hey, you can't go wrong on that. Bought it at 670s, sold it at 774. 450 shares on Friday. I was having a blast on Friday trading. And I was just like, you know what? Let me have some fun trading by myself, take a little pressure off, focus on the action, right? Not talking so much like I do on stream, and let me get after it. And I did well, right? And that just tells me more and more, trying to hone in on the play is so vital.
Yeah, congratulations, getting closer. So you just gonna YOLO now?
So now it's be smart, right? Because I also made, dude, it was a good day. It was a 600 plus day on both accounts. So what I did was I once I got to a point on that limited account where I was within reach, I was like, you know what? Put this on the sideline. Maybe in the afternoon I'll go for one more 100. I was about 200 away, so I grabbed like another 80 on a QUBT short. Right. So now I'm thinking, hey, take it easy at the gates here. Use the other account, the buying power where I got 1,600 in the green. I'm going to try to wait for a pop in certain names to then look for shorts. Sound, QUBT, some of my names that I'd like to short. Longs, I'd like to look at more like the consumer staples to see what happens there. Well, the market's open. Let's go find out what we can trade versus talk about it. Let's get after it, guys. All right. Is it time to get rid of favorite stock investors? I didn't get this one. Let me see. Is it time to get rid of the fave stock investors? Which ones? Which ones? Because there's plenty out there. What are we getting rid of, Kathy? Snoopy, what's up out there?
Kathy's looking pretty good right now, actually.
And yeah, Bitcoin took a hit, though. We'll see if Bitcoin stocks take a hit today.
Yeah, so just quickly on the open, right? First of all, you see a lot of red, not a lot of green. Market's gapping down a couple percent, makes perfect sense. Just looking at what's holding on, we have KWeb up 2%, FXI is up 1%. So people are looking at this as beneficial to China. So yeah, get your favorite Chinese name loaded up, see if there's something you can do there. When it comes to the rest of them, a lot of defensive names, right? NOBL is Dividend Aristocrats, TLT is bond, so we're getting a little bit defensive. But like I mentioned, my game plan is fairly simple here, right? So I mark the pre-market low, the pre-market high. I'm going to pop a VWAP, a couple of VWAPs on this, and I'm just going to watch on the open, because right now we are ripping from where we were on the open, or before the open. So for now, people are using this opportunity to buy.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense, I think, right out the gates here. And then I'm going to be looking in towards closer towards 10 to see if we get that kind of hit back down. That'll be interesting to look at.
Yeah, it's after you have a big event like this and the market is selling off, it's a little bit, I hate using selling off or crash, or we're down 1.5%. We ripped 7% in the last 2 weeks, and we're down 1.5%. So selling off a bit, pulling back, I guess, is probably the best way to do it. The question really is then, are people aggressively buying that, right? Are they very, very excited? They want to get super involved. They're do people think it's a bargain and that they can come pick it up now, or are people worried? And you'll see that, I think today is going to be super important, not so much for if we're going to be up or down, because if we close green, that's a big event that's just kind of occurred. But what happens, right? Are they buying here? Do we close at the lows? Do we close at the highs? Are people buying this particular dip? So far, looks like it, right? We're down 1.75% on the S&P 500. We were down, I think, 4% or something in the pre-market. So the Qs are down 3%. That was down definitely worse. I think it was down 6% in the pre-market. So far, not to jinx anyone, but yeah, people are using this opportunity to say, hey, it's time to buy some stuff, right? So let's see what they're buying, I think, is going to be the major thing.
All right, we'll see what happens out there, guys. Let's get after it. Let's see what we can come up with and make some money. Let's go, guys. Let's go.
NNE is interesting to me here. I'm from a swing trading point of view. I've been watching this zone after the breakout. Prior highs back here, major AVWAP around $35, give or take. This is going to be, from a swing trading point of view, a very active day for me, because these are the days where, if you are a swing trader, it's right. It's time to wake up, have your coffee, because if the market is going to hold here, you're getting a nice price on dips and you're getting nice prices on pullbacks. So NNE is one that I'm going to be watching very, very closely off the open. What I'm looking for when it comes to these swing trades is 30-minute, 15 to 30-minute candles is usually kind of my execution for swing trades. And I'm looking for pullbacks and holds at major levels. So I talked about 35-ish, right? This zone right here, which goes from $34.50 to $30. This zone, if we can sell off a little bit more, we can dig in here and then we can start to push higher. Then that's what I'm interested there for NNE. This is based off a pullback system and algorithm that I have. Bitcoin still reclaimed 100,000, so we're above that. Looking the same as the market. Nice pullback and rip there in Bitcoin. And then we take a look at the S&P 500 so far, still holding above that pre-market high. So I think this is going to be an interesting watch here, just to see what happens if we can get a pullback and then some sort of a push higher. I may scalp some of the S&P 500 long as well, right? So far, again, we're 5 minutes into the day. This is kind of the action that you want to see if you want to see a recovery here. People are very, very excited to buy this market. Bears are sad that they're buying this market. So, but we'll see what happens, right? We got to hold on. We got to dig in here.
Yeah, one of my top shorts on Friday already taking a hit right back down, Qualcomm, and that's one that I'll be looking to see if it does take a bleed. But yeah, with the market up like this, it's kind of hard to jump on some shorts. I think what you got to be watching here is which names are kind of being able to hold on. Right now, I do see that CCJ, NNE, SMR, they're all pulling back right here, and I think that those are names that definitely could see a little bit of some surprising action, just because this was a surprise news, right? And so they didn't get hit that hard overnight either. So I'm just looking at some of those to see if they're going to continue to leak. SMR was one of those that already kind of gave up a lot right now. So we'll see if we get a bounce on there.
Yeah, so we are pulling back into these this pre-market high, and then we're holding here. This is something I'm going to be watching really, really closely, just because if we end up holding that pre-market high, then and moving higher, which looks like what we're doing, again, just more evidence that there were people waiting in the wings for a dip. You know what the saying is: the market climbs the wall of worry, and that's kind of what we're seeing here. I think so far off the open is that people are excited that, you know, hey, I finally got a discount on whatever I'm looking for, as opposed to being sad and saying, oh, you know, I think the market's coming to an end. So yeah, continuing to hold. I'm going to watch this 2-minute bar close. Yeah, if we can kind of get and close above this area, I think I may take a scalp here on the SPY to the long side.
An interesting setup here. Meta just pushed to 640s from 628. So it's right back in the same spot that it started the day on. Big push up out the gates and now pulling back right to it. We'll see what happens here in Meta. Just an interesting setup there, right? It's also a throwback look on the daily here. So if we're going to have a pullback and a good name that could, you know, catch maybe some red to green strength, if it goes red here, I'm actually looking to see if some volume comes in underneath the low of the day, 625.70.
Yeah, so NNE, I'm still watching. The SPY is still just dancing above these pre-market highs. I think with the SPY will go most things. So yeah, Meta will be interesting to see, deviating quite a bit from the SPY, which is a good way to kind of take that play as well, right? If you have that S&P 500 deviation from what it is that you're looking at, then things can happen as well, right?
All right, trying to get long on Meta. Just put out an order at just underneath 626 here. Let's see if I can get a little bit of a piece here. Right under that. See if I get the fill. I'm pulling it back a little bit. I hate when the bid just hits my order, and then the offer just drops probably 30 cents after that.
Yeah.
So that whenever I see it just smack me right on, like it's 1 penny away and it won't fill me, I just usually drop it a couple cents there. But no fill there just yet. I'm still trying to get 626 there. It was a good look there on Meta, just no fill.
Yeah, so we broke that high again on the S&P 500, confirming a little bit of this this break of this line again, which was just pre-market high. So we pull back into it, we dig in, looks like we're pushing higher. Again, a lot of signs that buying's coming in. If you take a look at this, right, slowly creeping more green as time goes on. Ones that are down big, WGMI, which is our Bitcoin miners, uranium, because again, uranium's always at the top of this list or the bottom. And then again, everything else, XLP, consumer staples, this is the stuff you don't really want to see at highs. You don't want to see consumer staples and all of that sitting at highs, but that's kind of what's going on right now. So we just need to watch very, very closely just to see what happens here to the S&P 500, which is currently just kind of breaking out and ripping pretty hard here.
Yeah, CEG also taking a big dip, of course, in the nano nuclear kind of same space there. So we'll see how those take a hit there. So a lot of the energy names, but that Meta buy would have been great, man. It was one of those where it's like, dang it. It's like right back up there. So it was a really nice. So it was just pretty much the low of the day, looking at 625.70s and looking for this to undercut that. It went to 65.10s and really quickly recovered back to 636.
Yeah.
632.
And the reason for that's the very reason that I'm really watching this market so closely right off the open, even if I don't end up taking a day trade on it, because it's just for me, it's we have a perfect chance for a sentiment check right now. Right? There's two worlds as I see it that could happen right now in the market. One is people go, "Oh man, the AI is straight over. Let's all go run for the doors," and that causes us to sell pretty dramatically. The other one is, "Oh my god, I'm so happy that everything is now on sale that I missed before. Let me quickly come in and buy something." And those two different worlds will create what happens, I think, pretty closely off the open. If you are someone who was very upset that you missed that recent 7% rally we have over the last little bit, and the market pulls back 2% today, you're going to just be, okay, let me buy with kind of both fists here. And if that's the world that we're in, that the market's looking to buy with both fists, then you have that universe of, okay, now things have to go, and they have to go big. So you'll start to notice things like Meta and Nvidia and all of these start to catch a bid as people start to put money back in. And again, you'll see that in the S&P 500.
All right, seeing QUBT and Sound, those are two names I'm trying to target potentially on the short side of things. I like how they're going into the green, and they might go green to red here. So I'm looking at both of them, trying to distinguish which one to go to. QUBT is rejecting that 10, could go to 7 on the daily. Sound is closer to the daily support, so that's why I'm a little bit concerned. But to me, SoundHound AI is just not quality. Let's just say it like this. So I'm looking at this name as definitely a target. I'd like to see it do a couple of tries to the upside, up 1, down 1, up 2, down 2. Try one more time to get to this 475, then start failing right below the 1425s. Could start to go back towards the daily support right around the 1280s, $13. So you see how Sound is closer towards the daily support than QUBT. QUBT's more in that middle. That's the one I feel like could flush more if the quantum names really get hit today.
So I'm watching here. This is RSP. So again, RSP is the equal weighted S&P 500. This is a better representation of what the average S&P 500 stock is doing, not necessarily your big tech names. Almost green on the day. So the average stock is doing just fine and almost going green on the day. The big cap tech ones, all the AI related plays, they're down. This is exactly what we were talking about on the open, to say we're going to potentially get a rotation where we have maybe some of these AI names start to sell down. With that would become a lot of the nuclear names, a lot of the ways that we were thinking about powering AI, the whole 9 yards, the whole story that we know. But for the RSP, right, this is the closing price of the average price in the US stock market, doing very well. And the S&P 500 is still down like 1.5%. It just shows that, yes, we are seeing exactly what we should be seeing, which is, again, the average stock is doing fine. AI stocks are doing bad. If you're someone out there who's okay with rotating into different theories or different stories, it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a great market for you. If you're someone who is dogmatic about, I'm going to trade just this, that, and the other thing, I think you're going to have a bit of a bad time. At least that's the way I'm thinking about it.
All right, guys, looking at Rigetti here. Wanted to make an approach towards 1230s. That looks also decent there for a nice little setup. The good thing I like about this one is on Friday, everyone was looking at Rigetti looking like it was going to the moon, and it just started to hit people in the afternoon. Some bulls probably held on. I'm thinking, looking at that 9 EMA, some swing traders. If we can get back down towards like 1038 today, I think we could wash all those kind of swings out. I'm looking at Rigetti to start washing here. I wanted to do one more attempt here, set up like 1230s, and I'll let it try to pop to 1250s first, and then look to see if it really starts to take a hit. I like the Rigetti setup, guys. So you see the setup here, nice little pattern, right? So I'm looking for a pattern fail, essentially. Right.
Yeah, and I've still got my eyes on the SPY here. I'm very focused on that today. It just held that pre-market high after it broke, and now we're just consolidating sideways. So what I want to see is, a pullback. If we pull back, hold the VWAP or hold there again. If it looks like we're going to reverse and push higher, I think there's an interesting play to be had there as well, where maybe I just, you just scalp a breakout for, couple bucks here or there. Just because if we do have that breakout, again, there's a lot of people who probably shorted in the pre-market. There's probably a lot of people who shorted off the open, thinking that, you know, this was finally the time that the bears were going to be right about something. If that turns out to be wrong, then, you know, I think it's one of those things where you can have a pretty awesome trade where, again, if just like we talked about here, if we go back on the daily chart, we had this, you know, bear trap, scoop and score, whatever you want to call it, where bears got a little too aggressive and it ripped in the face. If we are seeing the second part of that, where we gap down and bears get super excited again, you know, it's one of those things. It's like, okay, you know, how many times until they learn? And I think the sell-off that we have that I will actually be scared of is the one where I wake up in the morning and I don't see that list of bears that I have like celebrating. If we're down 2%, I'm gonna be like, okay, that's probably the one that actually has legs. But right now, everybody is, you know, oh, look at me, I was the greatest for calling this bear market. You know, even though we're still up like 5% from where we were very recently.
AKRO in play today, and that one's a weird looking chart, man. Way up and holding on. We'll see if it's able to hold on and keep holding on. I didn't look into it too much. Kiro Therapeutics, I'm sure some news is out there with this one. Got up there past 60 today. Crazy looking stock there. It's just sideways consolidation right now. We'll see which way it breaks.
That is incredibly tight. AKRO.
Yeah, JG, Aurora Mobile Limited, another one that's starting to fade now. It went to 20 and kind of faded off of that. This one could be an all-day fader. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, just looking at the SPY, we're just consolidating here. We're just waiting. I was actually just going to Forex Factory just to make sure there's nothing going on today. Oh, new home sales at 10. That's going to be interesting. So that actually may cause some congestion or consolidation. Now, if we do have not a huge number, it's not like an FOMC thing or anything like that, but it's a pretty big number when it comes to new home sales, and that's happening in 13 minutes. Could be interesting to see if the market just pauses here and says, okay, we got this number in 13 minutes. Let's see. If that number ends up just rocketing us higher, I think we could be in for a very fun day and a very interesting day in which, things are looking to will pop just because a lot of people are going to be caught offside. So, yeah, again, forexfactory.com is just one of the best websites I just go to every day. So it just color codes these. So the fact that this is a orange little box here is just saying that it's not crazy, right? The red ones are the ones that are really going to move things. So there's something going on for the franc later today. But orange still means market moving type events. Not necessarily anything crazy, but definitely a market moving event is coming up in 12 minutes now. So the market looking to break out here. So that's something that we need to kind of keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm. Gonna start looking for hourly charts to start coming into play where they reject off resistance. We'll see if they are able to start holding hourly charts. And I think that's one thing to look at. Hourly charts have a tendency of the same way that, remember, like AMD was doing those hourly dips and then buys. I'm going to look for a push towards the resistance on the hourly and then the flush coming back in. So AMD is already showing that look, the rejected, and now starting to come back down. That's one name that I'll start to see if it's weak. Nvidia, the same thing. Right, so I'm looking at Nvidia. I'm looking at that hourly. I see resistance around the 128, 129s. That's where it can't get through right now. Looking to see if it takes a move to 125.
Yeah, and we're just seeing here on the market just nothing. Just continuing to consolidate sideways. Again, might be this thing that we've in 10 minutes we got this big number. So we see what happens. We see what happens there.
Apple, another jump, another bounce. 220s. That monthly support, guys. I just feel like everyone's calling out that monthly support on the daily because they're looking at it as bearish, but I see it on the monthly as maybe potential area where institutions keep kind of buying up, right? It's right back to 227 already. This morning it was at 218.20s.
Damn. So that's probably one of the big things that's holding up this market pretty well. Is that move in Apple.
And Tesla also recovering a little bit. That'll help it. Microsoft also coming back there. Amazon, the big boys working their way back. Now I'd look at a chart like this Amazon, right? So you see that hourly candle right here. This is 229.77. So looking to see if over there, do we start to run into some like blockage, right? That's where I think we could kind of go right back down to the low and maybe play a little bit of a chop between the range today. Could be the play also. One thing you noticed, haven't taken a single trade in neither accounts. Just trying to feel the market. Feel the market right now. Feel the market. Instead of trade the market, feel the market. That's the way I'm looking at it.
I'm the exact same way. We've had that initial move off the open on the SPY here, and I can show you. And then ever since then, that first 2-minute bar, we have just been kind of consolidating, congesting. I think again, more and more, people are saying, okay, we got this new home sale number in 8 minutes now. Let's see what this does to the market. But it seems like the market's just battling. And especially, this is, I think, one of the places where candlestick analysis really comes in. Look at all the these are 2-minute candles of the SPY. Look at all the topping tails and bottoming tails on each of these. This shows very relative indecision. Bears are trying to push it down, and the buyers come in and push it up, and the bears come in and push it down. And you have these, right, doji, spinning tops, whatever the technical definition is, I don't think matters. I think what matters is it's just showing indecision after indecision after indecision, where these battles are just fighting back and forth until the beauty of is when you have these periods of indecision, it means that there's a lot of people taking bets. Right? A lot of people betting the market's going to sell off here. A lot of people betting the market's going to rally here. So sometimes you can just mark the high and the low of these indecisions. And when you get a momentum move out of one or the other, then that can be your trade, because now that indecision is lifted. Everybody who is betting bearish is wrong. Everyone who's betting bullish is right if it moves higher, and vice versa if it moves lower. But really, again, 8 minutes until new home sales. I think that's kind of what the excuse the market's looking for. So might be interesting. Bring up what DHI, some of these home builder type names might be really, really interesting off this print for those who are a little bit crazy and you want to trade, the home builder right on the home builder name. But DHI actually looks really, really good here, just ripping. It'll be interesting. DHI is a home builder, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
DR Horton.
So it's wild, like ripping into the number.
Pretty good earnings, anyways. Also, don't forget about that, right? The earnings were pretty good. They came in on Thursday. We'll see what happens there. NVNI, I think it's in a halt. That's a small stock that just ripped. So just wanted to point to that. Oh, it is not halted. It's just slowed down, like right at the top end. So I think it'll be halted really soon here. NVA, yeah, it's halted. All right. NVNI on the halt to the upside, guys. All right, we'll see what happens out there, guys. I'm starting to look to see what names are showing up in the scanners. I see Tempest AI show up on that scanner. So looking now to start seeing if we're going to start to see some turnaround there. Now the market is doing that attempt, like you just said, that they try to break that range, right? Mm-hmm. Now is when I'm going to look for it to see if we get a big red bar. Big red bar. That's what I'll look for. If it's just a stair step higher, we can just, like Michael said, just shake the worry, shake the uncertainty, and keep going higher. I'm looking for that big bar. Just like we got a big bar at the open, right? Green up. Can I get that big red bar down? That would tell me to go back into short mode, and I can maybe look for some shorts. Without that elevator move where you're washing some of the bulls, I'm not worried about it today. So I'm just trying to wait to see what's going on. When's the next big bar come in here? All right, sound starting to cut a little bit. I might take a shot on sound.
Yeah, as you're saying with the SPY, just still, again, more of the same, right? We break out of that range a little bit. We come right back in. We're just waiting. We got 6 minutes, 5 minutes now. Market's trying to pop it high. You can see went
600 right above it on the SPY, right? I mean, just like psychological level that I could see it going towards on like kind of a big jump there. Let's see what happens out there.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes left until the new home sale numbers. That's definitely going to do something. It depends on what's going to happen there, and then we'll go from there. But we now have the RSP which is, again, your average stock, ignoring the big cap names. Not quite green yet, but still holding on. So showing that this recent rally in the last few minutes has been more of a bounce in large cap tech, more of a bounce kind of in AI type plays. To be honest, I'd rather see the opposite. I'd rather see AI just not doing anything and the rest of the market carrying us, because I think that might be overall healthier. Yeah, but again, just nice and a break of highs there on the SPY, and then just a little bit of a pullback. Everything's just getting super, super choppy out there. So we need potentially this number out of the way, I think, to get people kind of really committed into trading different things. Looking at the heat map, more green, right? We're seeing more green clicking. We have IWM actually green on the day. So again, just more proof that large cap tech is not having a good day. Everything else doing okay, right? We have IWM pushing higher. So that's, to me, pretty amazing with the Qs down like 6% off the open, that we have IWM higher. And then some of these other names are looking to get green as well. KWeb is starting to pull back a little bit. ITB, which is our home construction ETF, rallying, and that really kind of surprised me. So ITB is the home builders, that these are rallying this hard into such a big number. You'd think home sales, it's got to be one of the biggest numbers for this particular industry.
Right. Let's not forget what happens this week, FOMC, right? And the interest rate conversation, right? And what did Trump say on Friday? They might have gotten him into a little bit of trouble, but at the same time, what we're going to hear all about on Thursday or Wednesday, right? I think it is. Yeah, Wednesday is when we get the report. This is something that I think we got to really watch, because Jerome's going to get the question. Trump said you're cutting rates, man. Like, I don't care what you think anymore, Jerome. Trump said this. What are you going to do, big bad wolf?
That's one thing that's super interesting to me as someone who doesn't understand your guys' political structure is what power does he have, right? Can he fire him? Can he?
Yeah, he can. He can. Okay. He can fire him.
Then yeah,
he can fire him, dude. You know how it is. He can knock on the door and see his way out, man.
So then he'll get what he wants, or he'll just keep sending in new people if he has the ability to kick the guy out. He'll kick the guy out and hire someone else.
That's what people don't understand. At the end of the day, people want to keep their jobs, and when the boss comes knocking on your door and says you got to turn left and you're all about the right, well, guess what? You got two options: quit or turn left.
Turn left, or he'll find someone else
that will turn left for you, bro.
And then all you have to do to apply for the job is to say, I would lower interest rates.
So that's the conversation that's behind this DeepSeek AI. They could raise the markets, essentially, right? Think about it that way, right? Because that itself, that narrative is way more impactful than a DeepSeek AI is.
Yes.
Right? And what I always had a professor tell me really quickly, stop focusing about stocks, stop focusing about the hype words, focus on monetary and fiscal policy. Stop. Just focus on those things, and you'll be able to, at least longer term, catch the market, right? And so in my eyes, what's going on here? Well, we got a lot of conversation of tariffs out there. Tariffs are inflationary, but they take a long time to show up. So that's one thing I'm thinking in my mind, right? And then the interest rate conversation. If Trump is gonna force cuts, that could raise the market. The market started getting a little uncertainty in November after, of course, we got that emergency cut, I'll call it, that 50 basis points, right? Where they were like, oh, we're going to do all these cuts in 2025. Then someone slammed the brake, right, on that. They even said themselves, they don't know which way they're going. This could somewhat resolve because of that. So, hey, if we're looking at upside action, I think today is one of those days that distinguishes quality and the euphoric names. Euphoric names are still hanging out, but they're nowhere near like I'm seeing some of these big boys bounce back, like Amazon, Apple, right? I'm seeing small bounces in QUBT, small bounce in RGTI, small bounce in RCAT. RCAT's red, right? So those euphoric names are not being able to do as much strength in this bounce back as the quality names. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and that's kind of how much people are feeling about just betting on things and what that's overall looking like, because the SPY is breaking out here. IWM is green and nicely green, so your average stock is doing just fine today, is having a good day. But what Mitch is kind of saying, what Mitch is showing you, is that there's a lot of names out there that were kind of your gambles, I guess, before. They're not doing nearly as well, because it just kind of shows that there's a bit of a gut punch, I guess, to kind of the animal spirits of the overall market, in which people are slightly worried now that they weren't before, just about this AI kind of shakeup. But lower interest rates, it makes sense. If that's what the market's betting on, IWM will be the biggest beneficiary of lower interest rates, because these smaller companies, they have not as much room when it comes to sitting on piles of cash like a lot of these big cap names want. So this could be 100% what you're seeing, in which you have large cap names suffering a bit because they're worried about the AI play, but small cap names doing great because, like you mentioned, you've got the boss of the world basically saying you better raise these rates, or lower these rates. So if that's going to be the case, then it just shows rotation, right? The lifeblood of a bull market.
Yeah.
So SPY, those numbers are out, I believe. They came out at 10. Yeah. So exactly.
Look at that.
Oh, better. Yeah. So
here you go.
Actual,
right on this. We got the numbers. You got it?
Yeah. So 698K versus 669K. So more homes selling than people expected. It doesn't seem like there's a huge reaction, but we have a little bit of reaction. Lower here is the initial reaction from that anyway. We'll see if it holds. We'll see what happens there.
All right, guys, I'm looking to start jumping in some trades now, and I'm going to go for a Rigetti short here. So I'm just waiting here. I'm really looking to see the SPY start hitting here.
Watching here as well.
But Rigetti.
Yeah, IWM is just consolidating nicely. SPY trying to sell a bit, but still kind of in a little bit of a chop zone. A lot of these names just can't get going, right? You have the IWM small caps higher, and then you have Rigetti, which is obviously a small cap, not able to get off the mat at all. So you would hope that it would be kind of the complete and utter opposite, in which you'd get these
short,
these small cap names actually doing well, and so far they're absolutely not. So Wisdom here is talking about China stocks being wild. China stocks are always wild, but
yes, especially on a day like today, man. They're going to be wild. That's an undervalued kind of trade idea, I think, today. Not too many people are probably watching the China names, but I mean, you brought out a China AI. That's not a bad thing to watch.
Yeah, well, you think that this would be the beneficiary, because if there is if this AI is legitimate and for real and as cheap as it is, partnerships with Baba, JD.com, a lot of these names you think would be in the cards for a way to play it. This Baba chart is actually kind of interesting to me. We have, if you go to the daily chart, it had a nice little pop today. It's come back down a little bit to fill the gap off the open. And on a 5-minute chart, it looks like it's trying to get involved here. So consolidated for a long period of time, and it looks like we are trying to pop higher here in Baba. So this might be an interesting little dip buy for a day trade. Baba, I think, is probably my favorite vehicle if it comes to day trading China, because at least you have the liquidity there in which to play, right?
All right, guys, getting a pop back here on Rigetti here, about to get out around the 1290s if it starts to spike here, and there it is. There's a spike towards the 1290s. Got to be careful for the 13 pop here. So I'm putting it out right there at 91s. Could get stop hunted right now. I'll take it. That's $52 on the hit side of things, but got to take the shot there. There it is right there. Took the hit there, down about $54. So now I need to make about 200 to get this account into the funded. We'll keep pushing, guys. I started to see the SPY drop there. That's a good sign for me. The only thing is Rigetti kept going up there. Sound is right there on the hourly high. I was looking for the hourly flush down, which was a 1269 rejection there on Rigetti. It went back towards the 13, which was the high that it just went at 10 a.m. Let's see if it rejects off of a little bit of a blow off top on 13. Other than that, I do see, like you've mentioned, the IWM still holding up there. SPY did make that move straight down towards support, but it wasn't in one candle. It was in a couple of candles here. Let's see if they recover things, or do we really start to see a flush?
Yeah, everything's back within the range. So with the SPY, again, what I'm watching to see on this pullback, this is the pre-market high, which we broke and we held. So we'd like to see that hold again. This is also the anchored VWAP from the pre-market as well. They're both lining up right at 56 or 596.50 on the S&P 500. If we get there and we can hold and then start to push higher, then yeah, this could be a really interesting day. It's possible too that we gap, we have those buyers off the open, and then we just kind of chop all day. But what this feels to me, we talk about high volatility chop and low volatility chop. There's times in which the market just does not care. Right? It's just not, nothing's happening because nobody cares. And we've had a couple of days like that where it's not that there's a big fight going on. It's just nobody cares about what's going on with the market right now. This to me feels like more of a kind of a high volatility chop in which the market is fighting. There are two sides of this. One that thinks we should sell everything off, and one that thinks we should rip everything, and those are fighting. And generally what happens is at some point one of them has to lose, right? One of them has to win, one of them has to lose, and you're going to get some sort of rip. Might happen in the afternoon where the direction is finally decided. The big guys step in after the volatility has calmed down. But yeah, it feels like there's a fight going on. So my levels that I'm watching right now are this, again, 50, call it 57 to 56.50. If we hold that on the downside here, and then also this high right here, which is just the high of the day. But we just seem to kind of be chopping around.
All right, short guys on sound, short on sound, trying to focus in on that. But I also saw the VIX jumping above the VWAP. Was thinking about taking the VXX long there, but I jumped in sound short. Starting to see the SPY kind of rejecting around the 597 levels, 597.80s, 597.90s. Now look to see if sound can go right back towards the VWAP and then hit through that. That's below towards 450s, 445s.
Yeah, we're looking at the 2-minute chart here, potentially two topping tails here, and I may take a little bit of a shot here depending on the close of this particular candle here on the 2-minute chart, where I'm thinking of just kind of getting involved here, and then if we close green or at near the highs of this candle, and then just putting my stop below this pre-market low area and VWAP as well, just trying to see if it's one of those days in which they gapped us down and they're just going to rip us, and that's just going to be bad for everyone. So I am buying here. So I did get filled there, more of a scalp than I'm used to, more of a scalp than anything. But yeah, stop goes below VWAP, and just really looking to see if we can kind of pop into the close. So so I'm in kind of right near here, and then again my stops down here in this zone. I'll just highlight in this kind of area if we break. And again, the idea is that we have dipped, and then there has just been relentless buying ever since the open, just showing me that there are people that are looked at this opportunity and said, oh, thank God I can buy this name that I was very, very excited to buy, being the entire market. And just seeing that when it comes to IWM being green, holding well, RSP got green for a second and then pulled back a little bit. MDY, which is our mid caps, almost got green. IWC, which is micro caps, almost got green as well. So pretty much across the board, except for the S&P 500, things are trying to flip red to green. I take a look at this every now and then. Again, the heat map XLF is actually turned green as well. So we have some financials that have come in. We have home builders, as we mentioned, doing well. And biotech sector is actually doing pretty well as well. So a lot of names here are starting to kind of flip to that green side.
All right, guys, looking pretty good on this sound. Need to get towards 1405 to get the funded account. Let's see what happens right now, guys. We're getting down there. I feel like I at least got a good short here, right? Even if it comes back to 1484s, I can get out break even and look for the potential to get the funded account on this trade itself. And a big part of this is just let the market do the heavy lifting, right? I can't act like I'm the reason why it's coming down here. The key is, hey, we finally got that big red bar that I was looking for, right? A big red bar. Just don't want it to get fully recovered. 1480, right? Just keep it simple for myself. Look for the breakdown back to support, 1430s, VWAP right there at 1446. That's where we got to bounce near. So let's see what happens on the SPY now. It's more about the market now than it is for my trade.
Well, yeah, and so I think one of those things is it's really good to show relative weakness, because if you look at that last red bar there in SOUN, that happened at the same time the SPY didn't really move, so it showed that there was some relative weakness to that name. And yeah, you can do that. You can say, okay, this is a kind of a good idea that I can short the relative weakness, and then if I'm wrong, then like you mentioned, you end up getting out okay. I'm still long the SPY, the only trade that I've taken today. From the swing trading side of things, I have a lot of things that I'm watching. Probably see me look down a lot, because that's where some of my other names are, like that NNE. That's getting close, or no, NNE, not NEE. That's getting close at a VWAP. I'm looking to see if that holds. CIEN is another one that I'm watching. Nice little dip there into this prior resistance. These are all from swing trading algorithms that I have. So I have a lot of names on watch. So I'm just watching to see if we get this this hold strong in the market, and then I've got a whole shopping list where I'll probably by the end of today not have any capital left to do anything with, because I'm buying.
Well, you know what you call when you need more buying power, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
More buying power. Michael, send me the buying power.
But that's the beauty of kind of what we do over here, right? Is that
Exactly.
That's why I want to get into day trading with Trade the Pool, is because there are times where I want to kind of take a cheeky day trade every now and then, but I can't,
man.
because as a swing trader investor, I've used up all of my money and I have nothing to do. So it's it's good to have that external source to.
And that's a no day trades in the swing trade account.
Yeah. Yes,
unless the cash was just that good, that quick.
Yeah, you that's probably something we could do a whole video on, of the people who have turned day trades into swing trades, generally because they're down on them, and vice versa, right? If it's not your plan to do day trades in it, then don't do day trades in it. That's the thing, is I try to keep them as separate as I possibly can.
All right, guys, could risk off the high of the day or risk here on the 490s. I'm trying to risk off the high of the day here, because I think if we get the next move down, that's the breakdown move or the breakout move, right? And so essentially it's on the momentum right now. And so we'll see what happens here. If the SPY can come back to 596, I think we get the trade. If not, it probably pushes above here, and then we can keep stair-stepping all day long. So I think you just got to keep watch. And what I'm seeing a lot on these smaller stocks is blow-off tops right now. What I mean by that, high wicks on the top side, not the bottom side. Same thing in QUBT, a lot of rejections in the 1040. RGTI, a lot of rejections in the 1290s. Sound, a lot of rejections closer towards the 15s into the 1490s. So what is that telling me? That's telling me that there's some profit taking up here. Now I need to see if the volume increases into the breakout. That would be a warning sign to get out. Or what I want to see is low volume on this ride up, and then heavy volume through the support right now. So in a lot of trades, you can look for that. Why do I have Qualcomm up there? Because trust me, if I wasn't so focused on getting this account funded right now, I'd probably be shorting Qualcomm with my other account. That's just what I would. It's the classic trade for me right there on Qualcomm. So that's why you see it up also. I'm just trying not to account jump today, because that could like hurt me badly by account jumping on a day like today.
Yeah, especially as close as you are, it certainly makes sense to focus. What's interesting here is we're seeing a little bit of sell-off in the IWM. And look, this is the 2-minute chart, so we're starting to come down a little bit. We're still we're not green on the day anymore, right? We're now down, or flat, down 0.1%. But we got to that green on the day, and now we're starting to go red a little bit. So a little bit of a pullback here on the small caps. But then you take this and you look at the SPY, and the SPY still hasn't moved. So again, just showing you that there is this kind of divergence that is happening with these markets up and down, which again creates volatility, which is great for us. I think I'm going to start watching the small caps more as we're kind of seeing that change in environment. They might make for a little bit of a better trading opportunity. We look at the Qs, and the Qs are still not even close, right? We're still down 3% on the Qs. So overall, right, it's definitely a large cap tech that's having a hard time. But just right now in this moment, we are seeing a little bit of IWM sell off or profit taking off the bat in those small caps.
All right, guys. We've had a couple of those smaller names make 3 or 4 attempts to the highs. So let's start seeing what happens here.
Yeah, a little bit of reversal here in IWM, at least on this candle. I'm just going to draw a VWAP. Geez, it's wild how that happens. It's happening right at VWAP. So yeah, IWM is fighting VWAP really, really hard. So if we can start to push higher off of VWAP, great. And I think this area is going to be one to watch, because IWM is kind of your leader, in which if that is holding, then we know that this is whatever's going on in the market is at least contained to large cap tech. It gets a little bit more worrisome when that contagion kind of breaks, and then you start to see everything starting to sell off a little bit. So yeah, everything is looking okay as long as you're not someone who's owning big cap tech, right?
Yeah, I'm itching to short around. That's telling me something here, guys. So get ready for the speed up here. I have that feeling. Itching to short RGTI. I'm itching to short QUBT. I'm in sound, of course, already. Qualcomm looking good. There's the SPY heading towards the 597.20s. Now it starts to look a little bit better for the shorts to try to jump on here, for the bears to see if they can take it.
We'll see. It depends how much they can get into this just kind of massive candle that they had off the open, right? We had this big spike off the open. We're coming back down to VWAP, and we're coming back down to those highs, right? I have my stop kind of just below this for the first little bit of a trade, but again, we are still above the pre-market high. We are still above VWAP on the day. I think those are the things that have to give way in order to show that there is some control here that's happening by the bears. IWM, being kind of the canary in the coal mine a little bit on that last move down, is still holding VWAP as well. So still way up from the open on a lot of these moves. I almost want to steal something from Steve's book right here and just do I'm not a big fib guy, but I know he is. And he looks for that.
You see what you're doing, Steve? You're having an effect on my boy.
So that it's funny. He keeps talking about the 50% move, and that's right where we are as well. So we have VWAP, we have the pre-market high, we've got Steve's 50% move there on the SPY. Just a lot of things going on in this area that could make or break, right? If we do break down here, that could be the end of that little rally for now, or this just could be an area that people buy in, say, oh, thankfully I got another trade there. And then I just keep switching back and forth between the SPY and the IWM, because the IWM was early on that little downturn.
Yeah.
So it'll be early on the next move as well.
I wonder if you feel the way that you long side or something. Have you ever looked at the kind of just shorting VIX, right, or the VXX or something like that? I know you've probably run tests on that all over, Michael. So I know that you've talk about how this trade is for you and how it's played out in your career experience and what you've probably back tested.
I used to use the VIX a lot, but actually, even when it came to a lot of my swing trading systems, the idea was, you wanted to be more revision to the mean when the VIX was high. You wanted to be more pullback trading when the VIX was low, that type of thing. That kind of changed with zero DTE options, where the VIX kind of changed its personality a bit, because the VIX is ignoring those zero DTE options, and as more and more volume goes into them and people are hedging more and more with weeklies and zero TE options, the VIX is changed its personality just a little bit, so it's a little bit less effective in these tests. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking that trade, but to me, it's why go to a derivative with increased volatility when we're trying to play an advantage of something like trade the pool, in which we have though that capital, right? It's the same as if trade the pool offered options. I still wouldn't be too interested in them because, right, the whole point of it is I can get $250,000 buying power if my strategies are good, and multiple of those accounts if my strategies are great. So yeah, the VIX, it's actually one of the chats I'm going to have when I'm in New York. Where they have an option specialist coming. That'll be very interesting. And I want to talk to him about it and say, what does he think? Because there's definitely something changed with zero DTE options when it came to changing the way the VIX is calculated and the way the VIX is working, because people aren't using those VIX related options as much as they were in the past.
All right, guys, seeing the VIX take a little bit of a bounce there above the VWAP. We'll look to see if it starts to hold 46. It's done a nice hourly long pullback to the 90 MA. This is usually where I like to play the VIX, on an hourly long pullback after an extreme move. And it's right off the 44.85. And you had recoveries off of that 15 minutes. So I maybe look for a little dip there, but closer towards 45.50s on it to see if it does that nice little dip and rip. So a lot of times I look for the VIX to make a strong move, catch some buyers, pull back quickly, and then just as quickly go right back up, right? So right there, it washes the 46 buyers, comes back towards the 45.50s here. Now I'll look for it to go quickly through that 46, back towards like 46.50s for a breakout look.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The SPY sitting right on that VWAP still, battling that zone pretty hard. We've pulled back down again. This is Steve's 50% retracement. It's the anchored VWAP. It's the pre-market high. It's also, I guess, the 50 EMA here. A lot going on at that level. We pulled back into it. We're holding it for now. This is going to be the area, I think, to watch going forward, just to see if we can hold VWAP and push higher. The bears are wrong again and might cause them to exit. If we break and hold under these levels, then that might just give the bears a little bit more steam to say, okay, they ripped it off the open and now they're turning red again. Maybe it's time to keep an eye out. IWM, which again was our canary here, it's doing the same thing, right? Came into roughly the VWAP, right? You can, these are zones, not exact points, of course. And you can say, okay, hit there, currently digging in, holding on. So yeah, the next move I think is really, really important. If the next move is another swift move down, then I will obviously exit my SPY position, but it may also paint what's going to happen for a lot of the day, where this pullback, what you want to see is buyers who miss the opening drive, this initial opening drive, getting involved in this pullback. If they don't get involved in this pullback, then that just means that, that it was just a kind of retail pushed initial move, and the institutions, the guys who more buy on pullbacks and less buy on breakouts, they're just not really interested. So we'll be watching very, very closely because I have a position on top of everything else.
Yeah, I really like how Qualcomm's looking there on that pullback, but I'm gonna leave it alone today. Just for me, it's more on the daily for Qualcomm. So that's why I went shorting on Friday. I felt like it was extended on Friday. It was way away from the 90 MA, and Qualcomm has a tendency of staying near that 90 MA. Every time I've seen it expand like this in the last couple of months, what has it done? Quickly pulled back, right? And so it expands away. I looked for the quick pullback on Friday. Maybe you should have held on to a piece, man. I shorted this at 174. But yeah, look at it now, right? And it's back towards 170. So I'm just looking to see if it can go back to the 90 MA. And that's what I would be looking at on the daily, right? So the daily 90 MA is 167.71 now. So 167 would be closer to like right here. So what I'm looking for is for certain stocks to make this approach, like a trend line pullback approach, where it came from. Same thing for the SPY, right? So if I look at the SPY, I'd look at the same kind of outlook. Can we make an approach to the trend line, right? Let's say back towards, let's say closer towards 595, 596. If that doesn't happen, you can still keep climbing the wall of worry.
Yeah, we're getting a pretty sizable bounce there now on the SPY. If you zoom into a 1 or 2 minute kind of a name, let's do SPY here. A nice bounce again, right off VWAP, right off this level that we were talking about, and pretty much back up to highs. So looks like people are, they're buying, they're holding in. dips are being bought. So this next area to watch is 598.72. That's today's high. We'll see what happens from that, right?
Yeah. Man, the bear's coming out in me, Michael. I'm thinking along in the VIX. That's when you already know it here. Let's see what happens, guys. Because it did do that look that I talked about, right? Which is that kind of washout after the 46. So those bulls probably got washed now. Now I'd look to see what happens in the next 10 minutes. It's very important. Getting a spike on sound, not going to let it go through the high of the day. It's back towards 1490s. Don't want it to get towards 15s, of course. High of the day is 493 here. Let's see what happens in the SPY. Do we get a big bar right back towards the kind of where you got that bullish engulfing look? Or does it take the highs and go straight to 600? All things to look for.
Yeah, I think it's all going to be what happens here at the highs with the SPY, right? So if we get there, because we had a big pop off there, that was just me on the other screen just selling a bit, just tightening up my stop and selling a bit because that was a pretty good dip buy there. And yeah, so question is, do we hit these highs? And if we hit these highs, what ends up happening? Do we just get more of the same choppy nonsense, or do we get a breakthrough on something that could potentially be traded to the long side where we could have a nice little push here? Just holding strong again. Buyers came in, I would say, right where you would want them to if you were bullish. They pulled back to the VWAP. They came in right at the VWAP and not only bounced off the VWAP a little bit, but had a pretty substantial push back off the VWAP. IWM, same kind of thing, right? Back to green on the day. So it reclaimed. So we are now up on the day on small caps again. MDY still down a bit. IWC, which is our micro caps, still down a little bit. There's not enough liquidity to really know in that name until the end of the day.
Missing the trade of the day, dude. Holy. XLU. Look at that.
Ooh, holy. Just
holy moly.
Grinding down.
And for the XLU, that doesn't happen often, guys. When I started seeing the break here at the 80s, I thought it was an opportunity. But that day, Friday, I saw Duke up. And I was like, what's going on, man? So Duke just went from being up big to just going almost red now on that XLU. So I'd keep an eye on the XLU. That's an interesting move there. You don't see that happen too often.
No, and I don't know if that's related to just a lot of the AI kind of sell-off play that we're
that's that
here.
energy sell-off that we're seeing there. So the certain names that are down big, of course, like GEV, those nuclear plays definitely took a big hit. We'll see if they come back.
Yeah, and so that's going to be the real play. But again, the fact that these are all selling and we're getting a lot of still good movement in the SPY. We're up on the RSP. We're up on all this, and the AI is having a bad time. That's great, that's just showing again there's rotation going on.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think it's make it or break it time. Let's see what happens here. Show you guys it right on the chart here. I'm gonna throw mine up here so you guys can see me chart trade here.
We're watching.
Boom. So you guys see it right there, literally like I'm dead even, neutral, right? Essentially here. But what do I see on the chart, right? So if I zoom back a little bit, I see what? I see one attempt to the high, second attempt to the high, third attempt to the high, pull back, fourth attempt to the high, fails. So as long as I can stay within that wick, that 491, I'm good to keep this position on because I got 300 shares. It's a small risk, right? And I'm looking for the reward of like 150, which could easily be right back here towards the 1420s. So we'll see what happens there, guys. Now that I have 300 shares, it's not too bad. It's right here for the account, right? Right on the support. So I'm essentially trying to stay within the risk to reward, right? And trying to keep in mind that what matters right now is risk to reward, risk to reward, risk to reward. Like Michael says all the time, let the market come to me, right? Let me fall into the victory, just setting up the setups and letting them work out.
Yeah, the money is made in the waiting. I think that's a Charlie Munger thing, or I might be reminiscences of Stock Operator, but we have just broken the highs on the S&P 500, so we are at new high territory. Here we're breaking out of this range right here. I'm taking a little bit of profit off of that initial trade, so it was good, right? Bought a little bit here, bought a little bit more as we dipped down with the stop there. So now I'm taking a little bit of that out just in case we're getting one of these fake out candles, feeding the ducks, as they say, just putting a little bit out there for them to grab on those new highs. Yeah, just good trade. Again, the idea was simple. We ran off the open. We've gapped down. Every bear in the world came out pumping their chest saying, right, that the end of the world is coming. They were chicken little again. And what we got was the exact opposite, right? People have been buying. Small caps are even. Some of the larger names had a bit of a bad time. So it's good if you can trade multiple things. It's bad if you're just one of those people that will only trade one. Which I think there's a lot of.
This is when it starts to get fun, where technical analysis is telling me something here. So in this case here on Sound, there was a 32,000 share sell and a 12,900 sell at 14.92. You think they were probably looking at what I was just watching? Heck yeah, man. That guy got scared. That guy got scared real quick there. On the tape, you can see it right there, 14.92. So now I'm looking to see if it can recover that level. That would be a little bit of sign of concern for me, as that's where the selling really quickly happened, right? And then went right off of that 493, boom, right back down. So let's see what happens here. Of course, I'm just keeping it simple with Sound and looking to see what happens. Sound is nowhere moving, and QUBT and Rigetti are not moving nowhere near as much as the market is, right? So yeah, I think we're seeing some distinguishing factors there. Now the only question is, will they come and take these down? That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see how well those things are holding, considering the news, right? Considering
the news,
right? Like, and that's something that's always, you'll hear traders say all the time, is that the news doesn't matter. What you're trying to do when you're reading the news is to gauge its reaction. So if a company comes out, the reason that, we'll look at earnings and say, oh, earnings were really good, is not because then we're going to buy it because earnings was really good. But if, for example, earnings was really good and the stock sells off, then that's a really interesting piece of information. If earnings were really bad and they buy up the stock the next day, that's a piece of information as well, where you're saying, okay, people are looking at something outside of what's happening. The fact that the AI trade is unwinding a little bit and the market is still doing really well, considering, right, gaps down, just rips off the opens, make new highs as we speak. That's a really interesting piece of information, right? People that were, people showed up to buy, right? That's what happened. In crashes, people don't show up to buy. In little sell-offs that people think are a little overdone, they show up to buy. And in this case, that's exactly what they did. Everyone's showing up to buy at least a little bit. But what's interesting too, I want to know, just while you have your SOUN chart up there, is the relative weakness, right? SPY's hitting new highs of the day, SOUN pushing lower. So it's a really interesting way to trade, and a way that is fascinating for me to trade when it comes to swing trading, also works for day trading as well, is just relative strength, relative weakness. When they're rallying, what are they not buying? They're not buying SOUN when the market's rallying.
All right, 1470's big spot to see if I could see that crack. That's where I was adding earlier, because it's a big spot on the hourly there. Now I'll look to see if we get a quick recovery. We just went to 76. Can't get it back into above the 93s. That's the breakout immediately. So we'll watch what happens here. I think the important part is I'm setting myself up. If I lose 40, 50 bucks here. I lost 50 bucks earlier. Good risk to return for what I'm trying to get, right? 150. I normally am a 3-to-1, 4-to-1 type of trader. And on this account, I've been 1 to 6.5. So just going to trying to keep the risk to return on. We'll see what happens here.
Yeah, SPY continues to grind higher.
Rigetti ripping. Rigetti pushed. I will say that. And QUBT are trying to push. So that puts me on alert, right? That puts me like, don't let it go back through, like, let's say, a higher low, right? And so I'm watching right now. I want to start seeing this kind of break, right? So we started to go back up. Can we get back to the 75 here? If not, it's looking like 90s are really coming quickly. So we'll see what happens here, and just got to stick to the risk to return.
Yes, absolutely. It's when we start to see a lot of these, more speculative, crazy guys starting to go, just shows us that, right, and not all hope is lost by the degens.
Yep.
Probably a good time to see what Farcoin's trading at and whether that's moving higher. But yeah,
Hey,
when
you
you get,
can't short Farcoin, can you? Right?
I don't think so. A lot of cryptos you can, but because that's just so off exchange and weird.
Yeah, you can't
Um,
do meme coins, right? You can't short meme coins, right? I actually put a question out on my Twitter. I was like, starting to like look into a little bit about doing some crypto trading. I wonder about that. How does shorting in the crypto world work? Um,
I same as in the stock world. Most exchanges, I do a lot of crypto trading on both sides. Most exchanges, you can just borrow the coins. You pay a fee to do it, and you're basically just entering a contract. I'm short with someone to the other side. So, yeah, a lot of the same ideas, same ticket. The cool thing is that because it's all on chain, just to get super nerdy, you can see real time how many people
mm,
are short Bitcoin. So that's something that I have in some of my algos.
mm,
Yeah, real time, so you can see. That's how you'll see tweets of X amount of dollars was just liquidated from the crypto world. That's how they know that stuff, right? So
yeah,
yeah, real time short
exactly.
squeeze is interesting for sure.
And also like kind of inactive accounts and things like that are holding a bunch of bitcoins all of a
Yep.
sudden showing up, things like that. There's so much to learn in the crypto space, guys. So if you guys are digging into that space, look forward to maybe we doing a little bit some deeper dive into that, right? I'm
Yep.
going to be looking into it. There was one kind of crypto that I was looking at just this weekend, just checking out the chart, which was Link. Of course, with all this situation, I'm gonna put it on the sideline, but it's not a bad one that I'm thinking about. So
No, there's as long as you treat it like trading, like anything else, right?
yeah,
Then there's no difference, right? There's no difference in
yeah.
trading a cryptocurrency versus trading a stock versus trading forex or whatever, right? You're looking for supply and demand imbalances, and you're looking to take trades off those supply and demand imbalances. So yeah, I do a lot of that, and I do some forex. I do some whatever I can build a system on and have it at least partially automated.
Can't blame you for that, man. All right, guys, we'll see what happens here in sound. We'll see if I get the coin or not, man. And I think that's what it's all about, is just trying to stick to the trade now and seeing what plays out, right? Regardless of whatever happens. Market did bounce back today, all right? So I'll be looking at to see in the afternoon if we start to get an afternoon push down or not. I think that you just got to keep watching out there, guys. There's going to be a little bit of some conflicting noise right now. It's been a nice bounce back for the Bulls.
Yeah. Yeah, the Bulls definitely took control kind of right off the open. Have kept control most of the day. A little bit of a pullback to VWAP, but that's
Ooh.
normal, and has been keeping that as well.
Well, guys, new theme stock to kind of keep focused on. What about Asana? You see the move in Asana today?
Yes, and that one's been interesting because I don't know if you've been watching the insider buys on that, but the CEO has just been buying that.
Dude,
I guess,
he's been buying this for like
years.
5 years, dude. This guy got it like he put his whole life savings in his own company.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be mad about the guy doing that. I mean, it's definitely a sign of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's what's his name? Oh, man, I always look it up on Benzinga.
He's an
But
ex-Facebook guy. That's where he got it. Because yeah,
exactly, he's an ex-executive from another company, so he has a good little payout that he's using.
but yeah,
But
he's been like for a while there. Every single day, it would be this guy bought $10 million worth. This guy bought 10, just
yeah, not
like
like,
hand over fist.
and yet the stock was still just tanking. Like it's not like it's been slowing down; it was tanking. So
Yeah,
we'll see what happens there. But it's up 15% today. On a day like this, if it can be up 15%, I think it's one to watch.
yeah. No, it's a nice looking daily chart for sure. It pulled back, had a strong move, pulled back nicely. Let's go. Right, had this great move from $10 up to almost $28, $29. Nice little pullback into some major anchor VWAPs, and yeah, putting in a bullish engulfing at least today. So again, just showing some interesting stuff. There's someone in the chat talking about wheat, W or
Wheat
YIBO,
going on the
Weibo.
wheat life.
Ooh,
Oh, Weibo. Yeah.
planet imagery. Geez, Yeah, that's your crazy low floater du jour today, right? Just
Boom, out of sound, guys. I just didn't want to push it there. I had a feeling that the 15s could pop. We did get a pop at the 15s there, out taking the hit down to 106 on the day, but in reach, right? In reach, keeping it in reach, guys. And it doesn't mean that I can't go back, shorten these names later in the afternoon. I think what I got to be watching for now is for the bigger move to happen, right? And right now, the bigger move has been to the upside. So continuing to watch to see if those names can continue to rise. We'll see what happens on some of the names that have been pushing today. So keep your eyes on names that have been doing well, right? In the Qs, we've talked about some of these names, but MongoDB, MDB, big push up, 8%. Datadog up a decent amount. Moderna, Zscaler up. There's a lot of names like that are having some relative strength. Team, Workday, Meta. Remember that dip?
ooh, that would have been great. Yeah.
Oh man, that one was the hat off of the day.
Mhm.
You guys, when it just went through this low in the beginning part of the day, I missed it by, I can tell you guys, about 20 cents. I had the order out there. It just didn't hit me. Dipped through the low, right back up, and this has just climbed back up. 654s now. We're talking 627. We're 27 points higher or something like that. Man, what a move there in Meta. So, hey, it wasn't all bad today. At least for me, I'm down 106. Didn't even take a trade in my other account. So I'll be watching to see what happens later in the day. But hey, good action overall for the Bulls to get that bounce back. AI names kind of getting a little bit of the bounce back now. We'll look to see if they hold on.
Yeah, and it's just, again, like we said right off the open, this is what you'd want to see if you were a bull, is that people are coming in, right? Prices, this the tweet that I took that got everyone upset. I was like, right, breaking news, the SPY crashing to prices not seen since Thursday. The question is, when this happens, you have everyone out there. The Twitter was just crazy this morning of, oh, it's the end of the world. And then buyers just come back in and start to buy us back up and start to hold and buy things up pretty dramatically. So, when it comes to these moments where you have this shock event that's got everyone freaked out a little bit, the question is not what people are saying, it's what people are doing, right? All the perma bears come out and talk about the end of the world because that's just what they do to sell whatever it is they're trying to sell. That's why I love guys like Tom Lee, who comes out. He's yelled at be a perma bull all the time, but at least he's like, well, at least I'm going to be right 75% of the time. It's the whole saying that it sounds smart to be bearish, right? People want to sound smart, and it sounds dumb to say, well, the market normally goes up, so I should buy stuff. But it's one of those things makes money in the long run, and it's buying stuff, and that's what's happening. So we are breaking through all-time highs again. This is the exact price action that I want to see in order to get bullish. When it comes to this screen right here, you can see every time I click over, it's just more and more green. So we have more and more names going from red to green. We now have the Dow going green on the day. So right, we have the Dow, we have the IWM, anything that isn't super tech heavy, large cap tech heavy is doing great. Everything that is large cap tech heavy still has a lot of work to do, but from the open, they're doing phenomenally. So yeah, there's nothing more that I would have liked to see than exactly what occurred here. And then same with Bitcoin, right? Our ultimate risk off, risk on indicator. If you look at the candle, it is almost flipping to green. And if Bitcoin is going to go green, do you really think the world just ended and everyone has to sell their stocks or what? So some of the sectors are definitely getting hammered, right? We have, VST I'm just using to show this is a utility stock. Generally, you don't see them getting killed like this. So there's a lot of names that took a lot of damage today. There's a lot of names that are doing fantastic, right? And that's our job, is to try to jump ship as soon as the theme is over, right? Not get too attached to it, and then just find whatever that next theme is. So I was very interested today in the strength in healthcare, just continuing to break out here. So I think healthcare is something that I definitely want to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, I could see the relative strength in Apple early on, and that was one that definitely I will continue to watch to see the reversal as all the bears were out last week and hitting Apple about it was such an ugly stock, and now it's one of the strongest ones pushing off. So I'll be watching to see that one. Of course, Meta's one to definitely keep watch, but yeah, healthcare is something definitely to keep watch because that's made its way back. There's a big event. I think it's even this week. I think I got to confirm this. So, definitely do their own kind of confirmation on it. But RFJK, right? I think he's going to be meeting with, I think it's the Senate or the House or one of
Oh,
the
his
two. And
confirmation dealie?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
coming up. And so he's going to get grilled on
Yeah.
all this, right? And so I looked at a lot of the rumors out there, and let's just say a lot of the lobbyists are going to their senators and different kind of members that will be able to grill him, and they're going to grill him pretty hard. I think that might be a reason why you're seeing a jump back into this space because how bad do they get after him?
Mm-hmm.
And how can that help healthcare, right? I mean, healthcare has taken a big hit since the thinking that he's coming in to the office, right? There's no confirmation just yet, but
yeah. So yeah, those again, we mentioned this right after the election and everything. To mention, we were talking about right when Trump got in, is that's what we got to pay a lot of attention to when you're looking at the news is little things like that. Again, as a Canadian, I always just like to preface this with no dog in the fight. If you love the guy, if you hate the guy, it doesn't matter. Put that aside. We're here to make money, and it's just he's going to do a lot of things that are going to shake up industries. Now, whether you think that's good or bad, it's irrelevant, right? It's going to move things, and our job is to try to figure out what they're going to move. So that'll be very interesting to see. So things like that, if you know that someone is big on certain things, like I know he's food, he wants to change the way food's made and all that kind of stuff. You just bring up those industries, right? Is McDonald's going to get hammered if this guy gets in, right? Start to do your thinking about names like that, and then watch to see, because if the news comes out that he was confirmed, then maybe there's going to be a trade to take on a short of McDonald's or Coca-Cola or whatever it is, and then vice versa. If they say no, they didn't confirm. I don't know what the odds are one way or the other. But if they didn't confirm him, then maybe there's a trade to be taken the other direction. Maybe you're buying McDonald's or you're buying Coca-Cola or whatever it is. So just again, at least know that this stuff is going on, and develop some kind of a game plan, so you're not shocked, right? So yeah, for example, the other thing to do is make a list. If this event is happening and it's going to be a pretty big deal, another thing to do would be to take a list of your current holdings and say which of these could be affected by this event that I know is going to occur, and what can I do to kind of prep myself for that event. I think that's going to be another really big one.
All right, I think it's going to be a big level to watch. 600 today, 599, 15s on the SPY now. So that's going to be a big psychological hurdle to get through.
Yeah.
I think a lot of traders will be watching for that to see if we start to get rejections up here. I still think that we could make a move towards this trend line, so I'll be watching for things like that. I think on a day like today, it's very important to have different kind of indicators and things like to point you to where you're seeing the turns in the market, right? So depends what you want to use, right? I mean, you guys can see I've used plenty of different ones, whether it's the MACD or you can use the RSI here or something like that. And one thing was certain, in the morning, we did get that crossover, right? And we got a crossover really early on in the day. And ever since then, we haven't crossed back on the 15. That's one sign that can keep you from maybe going short or something like that until you see that cross back over, right? Until you see this momentum stop. That's one thing that I'd point to. So one indicator definitely to point to this week, the MACD indicator. We'll see if it starts to cross back over. And you can use this on different timelines, right? Like hourly. And then that shows you more of that bearish action, right? So now I'd be looking to see on the hourly if that light blue line can expand away from the yellow line. But definitely something to look at, especially on days like today where we get this kind of flipping action, right? Where the momentum was hot, but you brought it right back. Does it start to catch some support here, start to work its way back, and you see the expansion actually go higher? So the next couple of days, I'd be watching that MACD to see if we go to the yellow line, or do we just start to push above and start to actually just rip right back towards the highs where we were. So of course, great opportunity on the gap down to get some stocks on the cheap, right? We'll see if these able to hold on today in different action. All right, that's going to do it on the SPY and indicator outlook there, but definitely MACD is something that I use often, and I just use it as more of a confirmation tool and things like that. And usually don't use it to get into trades. I usually just show, hey, is the momentum on my side or not, and just take a quick peek at it.
Yeah, and it's always great to have. It's important to have these as confirming indicators. I think where people get in problems with indicators is when they use them solely for the sole decision whether to buy or sell. That's something that, right, if it worked, it would be very easy to test. But there's nothing wrong with saying, I'm going to look to short something when it's overbought, but then I'm going to use price action to confirm when to take that short. Or better yet, I think a great use for indicators is saying I will not short something that is oversold, right? Or I will not buy something that is overbought. I think that using indicators as a filtering mechanism is fantastic, because instead of waiting for you're looking at the chart and you're saying I really want to buy this name, and then the RSI or stochastics or whatever it is you use is incredibly overbought. It could just be a simple way of saying, okay, well, I'm just going to then wait. Right, I can wait for a pullback. I can wait for some sort of consolidation, some idea. So I think, and that's something I do all the time. That's like the primary thing that I do with indicators in my systems. We'll say, okay, you're looking to buy dips. Make sure the thing's not overbought when you're trying to buy dips in it. Right, make sure the thing's not oversold when you're trying to sell rips in it. That type of thing. Again, I think is a really good use of indicators. Is you can create rules. So find whatever it is that you're doing that's hurting your trading, and then create a rule around that and use indicators in order to do that. So I think, again, the perfect example, and the reason I brought that one up, is for a lot of people who have problems with FOMO, a simple rule of, I'm going to throw on a 5-period stick or 5-period RSI, and I will not buy anything if the 5-period RSI is overbought. I will not short anything if the 5-period RSI is oversold. I think that just makes your life a lot easier, because now you just created a rule that's going to kind of do anti FOMO, right? You cannot do this thing when that thing happens. So all you have to do is make sure that you're able to follow those rules.
All right, guys, looking to maybe take a little bit of a quick trade here in the VIX. We'll see if it starts to actually get the pop or not. I'm waiting here to see if we're going to start to see a little bit of some popping action. It just hit a low and then got a pretty decent amount of volume. So I'm looking to see if it can push back above this 44.60 on the VXX. So we'll see what happens there. I'm just watching the pullback there to see if this kind of 1-hour candle can go back to the green. So that opening was 44.80s. So we're right near that. We're at 44.60s and starting to recover.
Yeah. So when I'm watching here on the SPY, I'm out of that position, but may look to get another one. And the idea is now, right, this line is this prior high right here. I drew an anchored VWAP from the last time the buyers took control. That's also sitting right there. I haven't done this yet, but let's just do this just for our boy Steve. And a little bit above the 50% line. But the idea is that we do have an area of prior resistance that could be acting as support. We also have an anchored VWAP just hanging out in the zone. So a failure of the zone could be bad news. So it might be something that we take a little bit of a short through. If we hold this zone and start to push higher, maybe there is another trade to take. If I do end up taking another long position, then the stop again will be pretty wide, because I'm going to be looking for a move kind of into the close and everything. But we'll see what's happening here, because currently we are testing that VWAP right now, and we're bouncing a little bit from it. So we're bouncing around this zone. So it'll be interesting to see, if we hold, do we get a push back up, or if we break, do we get a little bit of a flush kind of back into this range?
All right, guys, I took the long on the VXX on the main account here, looking for the pop here. Let's see if we get the pop and the drop. If not, I'll just kind of cut it quickly here. It's kind of one of those quick trades here to see if we see a turn or not. I'll pay myself if it starts to go into the green here. The idea is to get a quick pop, sell some of it, and then let the rest of it run.
Relative weakness is showing in the IWM. We're now just on an intraday basis, right? It's still roughly flat where the market has been selling, but just we talked about, the sell off in the IWM started before the pullback in the S&P 500 before. We're seeing that happen again now, where we're having a little bit of a pullback, a break of these AVWAPs on the IWM. Maybe that will cause a little bit of down motion in the SPY, but RSP also right at lows of the day as opposed to highs, even though the gap down wasn't nearly as bad. So some names that are definitely kind of turning here a little bit. XBI, biotechs still doing very well. Pharmaceuticals doing very well. Home sales also doing very well. So again, this rotation continues, right? Some stuff's doing great, some stuff's doing poorly. The SPY, again, I'm just watching this major level. Bunch of areas of support and resistance here, so I don't really want to take a trade at this level. I want to look for some sort of confirmation that it's being held.
All right, not much. Starting to get the slowdown there a little bit. We'll see what happens there. It's 10:54. It's time to start wrapping up in just a second here, guys. Of course, you'll be heading over to New York, so we'll see if we're able to catch you on the road. If not, boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Michael, keep up with him, guys. If you guys aren't following his Twitter, definitely give him a good follow. So that way you keep up with all the New York City action. If you want to get it first, of course, keep up with his Twitter. I'll make sure that we drop that in below there. And like always, guys, smash the like if you guys are enjoying the action. Saw a lot of you guys jumping in here and even on X. If you guys are joining in on X, don't forget that we have a really active chat on YouTube where you guys can kind of talk about tradings a little bit more. Or you can actually click on the stream and drop in a comment straight from X. I know that not many people use that feature, but you can. You just actually have to open up the stream so that you can drop in those comments and we'll catch them. All right. Any last words for the market overall, Michael? Or what are you looking out there for the end of the day?
No, I think the close of today is going to be mega important because again, the whole saying. The amateurs open the market, the professionals close it. If they come in and buy aggressively into the end of the day, I think that's going to be a really good indication that they've bought the dip. If the opposite happens, if we start to sell here and sell into the end of the day, that's going to be really good information. So I will definitely be watching really closely. And I'll try to pop in from time to time if I can. If I notice there's an iPhone app, so I might just call in, say how you doing while I'm there. So it's New York and then over to Toronto. So from Wall Street to Bay Street, we'll see what the feels are on the street.
All right, guys. I went for one more sound AI trade. I'll take another $30 or $40 of risk here to see if I can get myself paid and into the green. I'm not going to go for the account unless it just completely pummels down here. The idea would be maybe to get back some of that 107, set myself up for tomorrow, right? The big thing is going to be if we actually get some real downside action to come in here. So a big part of this is just the overblown over the 15s. Now I'll look to see what happens if we really start to crumble back down. It needs to go for a while here. Just went 200 shares. That gives me the ability of taking a really small risk here, about let's say $32. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. Good looking little trade. And again, I wish you the best, and I'm sure you'll get that account while I'm away. So we'll
one of the things I love though, and I want all traders to hear these kind of things is that think about how we've been trading today. Michael and I have essentially been on both sides and talking about both sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not I'm not looking bad at Michael. I'm not no, man, why are you going long, dude? Why are you talking the bull trade? No, the trade, there's always two trades, guys. Whether we want to admit it or not, there's always two trades to make, right? And so I love that we can bring that perspective for you guys, and then you guys can make your own trading decisions, because that's what trading is really all about.
Well, yeah, and if you notice, we've been hitting it different too, right? So I've been buying the S&P 500, and then SoundHound is definitely not in the S&P 500. So right, it has a chance to be not at all correlated. It has a chance to be, I'm long something and you're short something, and you can both win.
Exactly.
And the reason I always say this is because people spend a lot of time trading names that are heavily correlated with the S&P 500, and I don't know why. Right? Either trade the SPY, trade the S&P 500, or trade stuff that is not going to be related to it. Because if it's going to be something that's going to move in lockstep with the market, just kind of trade the market. So I think that's one thing that that Mitch did, where he's looking, he's saying, hey, you know, the SPY looks like it's holding, so let me just go over here to this random junky AI stock that looks weak, and I can take a trade there. So
yeah, and it's important to think environment, like, right? So where I always like to catch where environment quickly changed, right? Quickly, where somebody got caught off guard, regardless of who it is. Somebody got caught off guard, right? I'm sure somebody was buying the dip in AI names on Friday, thinking they were the big and bad on Monday, and came in really with their face ripped off. Feel bad for those traders, but that's the truth. That's trading, guys.
Well, yeah, and like what you mentioned, and I think the word, the opt word that you said is quickly, is because it shows that there's emotion there. If you know, if this move, if this sell off of 1.5% was spaced out over 5 days, right? Say the week was down 1.5%, where the market's down 1.5%. No one really care, right? Because it's just the market went down a little bit one week. I think what shocked everyone is that we were at all-time highs, and then we woke up with the market down 1.5 to 2%. And that shock is what really gets people going, okay, I got to wake up. Something occurred. Something has changed in the market. I need to, and that's what causes the fear. That, and with that fear becomes a lot of emotions. You have people who are, you're going to be aggressively buying dips like I did today. You're going to be people who are going to be aggressively getting out. That emotion is what causes the market to move. If the market is just calmly going up or calmly going down, it's hard to get edge there, because you're not getting these really reactive kind of freak out events.
All right, guys, was able to cash some cash there, guys, on the main account. You guys saw me close up that VIX trade there. So I still got the sound, and I'm watching the sound. But on the main trade there, I closed half of the size there on VIX, a little bit more than half. I closed 300 of the 500 on the first pop, took 100 off. Now I have break even, and we'll let this work, right? And so just taking some cash like I talked about it. Sometimes when you talk the trade, you can get pretty with it. I could have held the full size there and tried to get pretty with it on the VIX, but I said, you know what? I'm already getting the pop that I needed. Now I'll keep the 200 shares and let it run, right? Let it give that chance to give the breakdown on the SPY. We never know if the SPY is just going to bounce here and come right back up, right? That's just a clear example. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, volatile day, probably going to lead to a volatile week. You mentioned that there was some Senate confirmation stuff. There's all those earnings that we showed earlier in the show.
There's
I think there's
so much Trump
FOMC
underneath, right? I mean, hey, this is no short of news out there. There's news. There is news. Now you just got to be able to really be quick and nimble. I think that's the important thing. Be nimble in a market like this.
Yeah, when there's events that much, you know, you're going to get whipped one way or another. So just have a plan, right? I will exit when this thing occurs, and then stick to that plan. And until that thing occurs, do nothing, because this seems like one of those markets that you could get caught on both sides if you're buying and then flipping short, and vice versa over and over again.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Sound back to 1487s here. We'll look to see if it holds the 15 break now. Essentially, I don't have my stop out there, but that's pretty much my stop. It's mental stop at the 15 now. So essentially in the green, I'm going to give myself the chance to come back. If it doesn't, just get out, take the hit, and continue battling tomorrow, right? Like always, stay within reach sometimes is so important. I don't need to make $400 right now. I need to make $200, right? So keep it simple, Mitch. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with some other trades out there. Of course, still got the VIX trade on there, SPY pulling back, and a big shakeup today. We'll see what happens tomorrow, guys. Stay with us like always. Keep up with Michael Noss. You guys will see him out in New York, and that side, not this side, but give him the like button and hit the like button for us. Like always, guys, if you guys can do us one favor, that's hit the subscribe down below. And yes, you saw it kind of glow there when I say the word subscribe. So hit that button. And of course, like on X, if you guys are enjoying these streams, let others know. You can do that by simply retweeting it, kind of quote it, and let us know, hey, I like this trade that you guys were talking about, or I like this conversation. That's going to help us expand more and more in covering those topics that you guys want covered. So we'll see you guys back like always. Michael, I wish you the best of luck on your trip to New York. Have fun, my friend. and go find those lunch spots like I talk about in New York City, man. Let me know what the lunch trade is going on there, because those sandwich spots, those New York sandwich spots, let me know, Michael. There's probably some good ones out there. Take it easy, traders out there. We'll see you guys back tomorrow.
See you guys later. Yep.